Ladies and gentlemen, I like to refer to him as El Presidente or Monsieur Mogul.
Head honcho.
Head honcho. Mac Daddy?
No. See?
No? Too much?
Yeah, that's
Okay, either way.
like head honcho.
Either way, Scott Coker, the great Scott Coker, president.
As we call him, Scott.
Bellator.
I think people call him Scott.
Well, by the way, I'm not. I said this to you when you came in off the air. I have never heard anything but good things about you. See, when you're in a position of power, and you guys don't realize this, but he came in with he's got an entourage. He's got 2 kung fu acrobats. He has a giant.
They patted us down in our own studio.
Dwarf. Yeah, he's got a whole thing going. And but there isn't, with all that responsibility, it would be easy to be kind of a
hated.
Or at least people going, he's a pain in the ass. The boss man has to be tough. But I never heard anything from fighters or anybody else.
Well, especially as a promoter, right? Like, because technically, when you're head of an organization, especially a fight organization, you look at the Don Kings or the Bob Arums, the Dana Whites. As a promoter, it's a tough gig. You know what I'm saying? It's a tough gig where people are going to say nice things about you. And what did I say when I came back for Bellator?
Yeah, that's it.
Exact same thing. I was like, dude,
he's the most personable guy and the nicest guy. But I've heard that from a lot of people. So, sir, congratulations on being well liked.
Congrats, man.
Thank you.
He turns out just to be a dick around us.
He just goes, that's all I was waiting for.
He's mean to us.
But Bellator is making moves, man. You guys are, more and more people are talking about Bellator. And it's good for the UFC. It's good for Bellator. You know, Brendan was talking about how
I said it's good for competition.
Competition is a good thing.
But this, and I'll let you dive into this, Scott, because we've had Randy Couture on. We've had, a ton of guys on. Ben Henderson was talking about it. We're talking about the whole discussion right now in MMA these days is fighters union, associations, all that stuff. And that it's such a mess, and some guys might be in it for the wrong reason because they see dollar signs now because Bellator's blown up, UFC's blown up, obviously the entire sport. The best thing for the fighters, period, is for Bellator to get as big as possible, for UFC to get as big as possible. Competition is the best thing for the fighters. So for any fighter out there, when you see a Rory MacDonald sign with Bellator, when you see Ben Henderson, Phil Davis, Matt Mitrione, when you see these guys, that is where the sport is going to grow. That's where people make the mistake going, the union, the association. No. We need the better the competition is what we need.
Yeah, I agree. And, when I sold Strikeforce in 2011, then I would have managers call me and say, you know what, now there's only one buyer. And now our fight purses are going down, and they've gone down 20%, sometimes 30%, because there's only one player at that point. And so when I decided to come back, I sat down with Spike and Kevin, and we said, hey, we're going to really make a run for it, and let's go big. Let's not just – and there's a 5-year plan that we have mapped out, and I think we're way ahead of schedule at this point. But part of it is, look, we allocated so much money for the fighters, that the free agents, the guys we have, the guys that we want to go after in the near future. And, that's important because you need to have 2 buyers in any industry. Otherwise, the industry is not healthy. And so we're going to be that person that's going to be in bid. And honestly, Viacom's a powerful media company. They could do whatever they want.
Super powerful.
Right?
Yes.
Do you think that way then? So your idea is to be you're an ambitious guy. So your sort of goal is to be as big or bigger than the UFC, right?
I'll tell you, when I wake up every day, the only thing I think about is Bellator and driving Bellator. What other people do and what they do and who they sold to. I mean, I think it's great that, the industry can see, hey, there is at the end of the light, there is something to be sold like the UFC did. So Wall Street takes notice, right? It gives respectability and credibility to our industry. And, for that, I'm very thankful to them. But, when I wake up every day, it's just about Bellator and what we're going to do, the moves we're going to make.
That's why you're successful.
Yeah.
Most people wake up, oh my God, what's UFC doing?
Right.
No one thinks like that who's in a successful position. But people forget, Scott built Strikeforce from, remember, the UFC isn't the first ones to do this.
Right.
Scott built Strikeforce basically from nothing, partnered with Showtime and CBS. Is that right?
Yeah, we had shows on CBS. We brought Fedor to fight Brett Rogers.
Think about it. So, and Strikeforce, it blew up, man. And in 5 years?
Yeah, it was like 3 years.
You're talking about some of the greatest fights ever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When the UFC bought Strikeforce, I remember going, they were wearing the T-shirts. I was like, no, we need the competition.
But your time in Strikeforce, would you say those were kind of not the glory days, because obviously you're doing big things in Bellator, but I'll tell you what, man, I remember everyone tuned into those fights.
You know what? It was special moment in time, and it was the end of Pro Elite era. So they had signed all these great fighters, and we bought Pro Elite, and it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because when we bought Pro Elite, I had to take in a financial partner to make that acquisition. So I brought in, before I owned 100% of it, right? So we're moving along, and we're doing great gates up at HP Pavilion, signing big fighters, and then this opportunity comes along, and I said, okay, well, to do this deal, I need to go bring in a partner. So my arena that I was doing fights at, they are owned by the San Jose Sharks. So they have been approaching me saying, hey, when you want to do a deal, we would like to invest with you. And so I said, okay, now's the time. So they put in a bunch of money. They got a percentage of the company. It's actually an equal percentage, right? So we bought Pro Elite. We got Gina Carano, and we got Nick Diaz. We got
Misha.
Jake Shields. Misha was somebody we found in a tournament.
Yeah.
We had a tournament, but anyway, so we got about 10 top talented athletes, world class athletes, and then we integrated them with our roster, which was Kong and Frank and Josh Thompson, Gilbert Melendez, and then we started taking off. And so that was the double-edged sword, because with that deal, we got the CBS contract and the Showtime contract, because that's what they had delivered, or they had already acquired those. So we had instantly a Showtime deal. We went from doing 4 fights a year to doing 16 fights a year, had to ramp up. It was a great time of growth for the company. And then that was in 2009, 2008. Then 2010, the UFC knocks on the door and say, we'd like to acquire Strikeforce. And
why sell it though, Scott? You know what I'm saying? Because it was such a good name. You guys had such a
love that
strong
name.
stable.
Strikeforce.
You don't have to explain to anybody.
No.
You don't explain to anybody. It's just it is what it is. But
awesome.
And you started that. I mean, Strikeforce came from Scott Coker.
That's
You
right.
started the Strikeforce brand.
Yeah, I was a founder. We founded
Yes.
it in '91, and it was a kickboxing league on ESPN2 when ESPN2 launched back in the '90s, and we turned it into an MMA program, or MMA fight league, when California gave me the first show in 2006, back in March. Frank Shamrock fought Cesar Gracie. Kung Lee fought his first MMA fight. Gilbert Melendez fought. Josh Thompson fought. And we had 18,000 people at the HP Pavilion.
What a perfect storm, because you're in San Jose. You have AKA there. You have Gilbert Melendez. You have all Kung Lee's up there. You have just this kind of weird mixture where you had a promotion. You had all this talent, and there's still a ton of talent up there.
And you know what?
in
I'll tell
Northern
you,
Cali.
the Bay Area has always been a hotbed for martial arts talent.
Why do you
Always.
think that is?
Even when I grew up.
Why is that?
Well, because you think about it, when martial arts came from Asia, it all came, where did it come? It ends up in San Francisco.
That's right.
It ends up
That's
in
right.
Seattle.
Seattle,
It ends up in
Bruce Lee.
LA.
Oh, that's
right?
interesting.
And so as it migrated into America, that's where it all ended up.
Right.
And then a lot of people don't know this, but AK, the founder of AK is a good friend of mine, but he was also my student, for a time being. And also,
So you train, you teach.
I was teaching martial arts,
Like
like traditional
a
martial arts.
six-time black belt or
Yeah,
something?
Taekwondo.
Yeah, Taekwondo.
Right.
Me too.
Hey, crazy! You got another black belt over
Yeah, I
here.
love it.
Relax.
It's weird because I can look
Scott
up all
and I-
his records
Nah,
online.
bro, Scott and
It's
I,
very strange. There's pictures of him
You
online.
didn't see us bow. We recognized our own. He saw my
Talent
he saw
recognizes
the way
talent?
He saw my martial presence. It's called a martial presence.
So there's always kind of been a fight culture in San Francisco, and you growing up there. So this has always been your goal.
You know what? When I turned 21,
I should say the Bay, not San
yeah,
Francisco.
I was living in San Jose, but it's really the Bay, because
Yeah.
you go all over and compete in tournaments and do martial arts. But
I know about it.
it was when I turned 21, I had one of my students say to me, "Hey, we have this kickboxing show that wants to come to San Jose at the Civic, and it's called Coors Super Fights." And it was PKA at the time, which is Professional Karate Association. ESPN was airing it. All above the waist kickboxing. You had to wear the long pants.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you guys remember.
I remember
But,
it very well.
So anyway, I said, yeah, let's try it. And he's like, do you know what to do? I said, I have no idea what to do, but let's give it a shot. And that was really my first entree. We had a fight between Felipe Garcia, who was a PK featherweight champ, against George Angot.
Was
no
Bill
TV.
Wallace? Was Bill?
Yeah,
Super
Bill was
Wallace?
still
Yeah.
competing at the time.
Yep.
And that was kind of like the end of his era.
Yeah.
But he was still competing. And back then, people don't realize today that back then, those fights were on NBC. Benny Urquidez was fighting on CBS. I mean,
Yeah.
they were on major television
yeah.
too. And ESPN had a whole series.
So you had success soon from that.
So, at that time, I was teaching martial arts, going to college, and then I started this fight company. And the first fight, we had no TV. the building held like 2,500 people. We sold like 2,000 tickets. And I remember I walked home with like $8,000. You know,
that's a big
I'm
deal.
like, I'm rich.
Yeah,
This is
super
fantastic.
rich.
I'm going to quit college.
We
This is
going
over. It's over.
sizzling.
You know?
Quitting college.
Explain this to me. We have a lot of theories that we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
For example, one of the problems that we always see with MMA, we talk about the UFC, is that you typically, the UFC has done a very good job of making the UFC, the brand itself, sort of the star of this. Trying to kind of hook into a star the way you do with basketball, like LeBron James, is very difficult with MMA because not only is the sport evolving so quickly, the gloves are so much smaller, and you never know who's going to get knocked out. You make one mistake, the
many
margin
ways to
for
lose,
error
yeah.
is so small. So, yes, we all love Conor McGregor, but we talk about Conor in the 55-pound division. If he has trouble getting down to 30, it's not. It's a tough field, and there's a very good chance he could lose, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3, whatever it might be.
Right.
And so it's hard to make stars. And I wonder from your point of view, if that's as important as we talk about, because you are growing the sport itself is growing. So what is your philosophy on that? Well, how do you look at that?
Because
how
if
do
you look to stick with your story that you were telling, because if you look at Strikeforce, you guys had a stable. I mean, you're talking about a core group where, I mean, they were. What? Remember, Gina Carano was basically the first girl where everyone tuned in.
Yeah,
because
she
we've
was
seen
the
girls
first
fighting.
TV star.
Oh,
she,
yeah.
she was the first kind of crossover pop culture fighter. A lot of people forget, and she was good, man.
Yeah,
she had
she could
skills to
fight.
back it up,
athlete?
She could fight.
and gorgeous.
Yeah, and her dad would watch. There was a whole story.
Dad
Dad
played
was
for the
always
Dallas
stressed.
Cowboys.
Dad was stressed, boy. Let me tell you. Give me a calls, 2 in the morning. Hey, is this good for my daughter?
Yeah.
I'm like, Glenn, she's a fighter. Like she wants to fight. This is not something that we're making her do, or she
in her
is a
blood.
fighter. And these fighters that fight, it's in their blood. They want to do it.
Yeah.
And the way I look at it is, we have for the Bellator roster, Strikeforce. Well, let's take it back to the Strikeforce roster. The Strikeforce roster was built from the ground up, and then when free agency came, like the pro elite opportunity, and then Fedor, and then Fabricio Verdum, and then we throw this amazing heavyweight tournament.
Oh.
It's
One
like
of the best of all time.
the best. I mean,
What are we talking about,
tournament was
Scott?
amazing. That tournament was
What?
amazing. But that was, I think that we're really good star identifiers, like good star identifiers. And then we'll recruit them in, and then we'll start them on a developmental program, get them training and get them going into, we'll put them into AKA or put them into different gyms, let them start training. And then as they're ready to fight, we'll basically help guide their career to a certain point, and then you got to go fight everybody.
But remember, you guys were
Yeah.
the first to do the Strikeforce Challengers, which I wish there's something like that today. There's the regional circuit.
is that?
Strikeforce Challengers was guys who they weren't quite ready for the big leagues of Strikeforce and UFC, but they still put them on TV so you could see
Yeah.
kind of these
The next
young
generation.
up-and-comers.
Oh,
yeah.
I see. Okay.
This next year, and I'll tell you what,
love that.
I looked at this poster the other day, and it just made me smile because I'm really happy for the guys that are achieving great success, no matter where they go, whether it's still fighting for us or UFC or wherever. But the poster had Daniel Cormier in the middle, Strikeforce Challengers. This is like a beginning guy.
Oh my God!
And
No,
then
listen to
Tyron
this.
Woodley,
He found all these guys. Listen to
Tyron
this.
Woodley, Tarek Safradine,
Damn!
and then Luke Rockhold.
Come on!
Swear to God, this is how. Let me tell you,
Think about it, man.
I promoted Nate Diaz's first fight, promoted Cain Velasquez's first fight,
Rhonda?
Ronda's,
That's unbelievable.
But the thing is, we said, Bob Cook is a great scout, and he said, or manager scout, and he comes to me, he says, I got this guy, and he's Olympic level wrestler. He's going to start training AKA. We could turn him into a great fighter. And I said, okay, So we meet, and I'm looking at him and going, Bob, he doesn't look like a fighter, And that was Daniel Cormier.
Especially a heavyweight.
And
Right.
think about how smart. Think about how smart your recruiter is, because to
Oh,
look
Bob
at Daniel
Cook's a
Cormier
legend.
in a polo. He
Yeah.
came to my show in San Jose, and I remember looking at him. I just couldn't get over the fact that he fought and dominated at the heavyweight division.
No, he was their heavyweight title holder.
right.
he was,
And I've always marveled at his.
He won
his
your
ability.
But
tournament.
he could talk, right? And so I said, God, this guy can talk. Bob, if you're telling me this kid can fight, then, we're going to sign him. So we signed him, and then we started getting him fights, to help him along. And then at a certain point, we just turned him loose. And then he just rose to the...
Him and Rashad were close, and Rashad brought him to Denver to train with Carwin, myself, and the whole team. And he was He didn't even have a fight. He was super new, and we were doing jiu-jitsu. He didn't know what he's doing, so everyone's kind of tapping him out.
He even said it on the podcast.
Yeah. He's
he said you were rolling him up all the time.
Yeah, and I remember looking at Shane like, this guy kind of sucks. He was the nicest guy ever, though. And then when we wrestled, obviously, he just,
yeah, he's a great wrestler. But look at his striking ability now. Right?
It's amazing.
His learning curve is so he's one of those athletes who just picks up things.
That's what it is. And then now he's a complete MMA fighter. And but that's we were good star identifiers, good star builders, and then you turn them loose. But like you said, it's our job to build a roster that people want to see, not just build one guy. You can't do that in MMA. Doesn't mean it has to be league, just all about the league, because I think it's about the fighters. If you look at our entrances that we create for these guys, we want to build their brand, because as we help them build their brand, it's going to help build Bellator's brand.
Is that inspired from Pride?
Absolutely.
You guys are inspired by Pride.
Let me tell you.
Which were the best intros of all time.
Of all time. I mean, I feel fortunate because in 99, I started working with K1, right? Running their North American operations. And I'd go to Japan literally 6 times a year to have meetings or go to the fights. And then when Pride was on, I would go watch Pride. But K1 and Pride were pretty, pretty comparable as far as production. It was amazing, right?
Yeah.
And we'd go to I saw some of the best fights in the history of this sport in Japan. And I feel really, really lucky to say that, because, the Nogueira versus Bob Sapp fight. To me, that was one of the best.
He picked him up and threw him on his head.
He didn't know how to fight, so he picks him up and he does a what do you call that move? That
suplex,
like a power suplex, slam.
Pile drives him, and I remember Nogueira goes down, he goes back, and Bob leans over and says something to him, and later I said, Bob, what did you say to him? He said, I asked him, are you okay?
Oh, serious?
Are you okay? Like, Bob, you're supposed to punch him.
Nicest guy ever.
He's the nicest guy. I was in an audition with him, and I spent an hour and a half. A conversation. I looked at him. I said, "You're Bob Sapp, right? I've never seen a face that wide in my life." And he even told the director. He said to the director, "Cast me in this, and I will." It's so funny. First of all, he's really intelligent. He's not interested in talking. He has read so much. We had such a deep conversation. Yeah. He knows so much about psychology. He was giving me all these books. I mean, he's just a fantastic guy. And he said to the director, he said, "I will take if you need to do this. I'll take a punch." I'll take a punch to the face. You can go ahead. He's not that big a guy. I'll take a punch. Tell him not to really wind up, but I'll take a 70. He said, I'll take a 75% or 80% power. He can punch me right in the face.
And don't you think, Scott, like with those walkouts, like I look at them and other organizations, it's very uniform. Everything's the same.
Right.
Which our sport is not the same as other sports. When a guy fights, I mean, he might, especially if he's a title holder challenger, he might fight twice a year, maybe 3 times a year max. Right. It should be the Super Bowl. It should be a celebration. Yeah, I don't want my guys walking out like they're in a baseball uniform.
You love you always talk about that. You love the pomp and circumstance around that, because that's part of showmanship.
It's showmanship, and the magnitude of what these guys are trying to accomplish should be celebrated.
Well, when you watch Pride and you'd see Insigne come up, and he'd come up through the ground and be in a crouch the way like the Superman
like
or
a video
Batman.
game. Right. It's like a comic book.
Yeah.
Right.
And it would just be like, and you'd see smoke and you'd be like, God, this is going to be sick.
It's a presentation.
Yeah.
It's a presentation
of sport.
Yeah.
And really, it's like if you look some of our big fights that we put on, the production really is quite amazing. The Dynamite shows, and it's right up there with Pride. I mean, if you look at the
very similar, yes.
And to me, that's really like our stamp on the sport. It's like we want to make this a very special presentation. We want to build the athlete. We want to build Bellator, and I think we're doing everything that we're that we can do to promote that.
Can I ask you just to go back to Scott?
Sure.
But with Strikeforce and with the stable of guys and the success, why sell it?
So here's what happened.
Like, I was heartbroken.
No, believe me. Let me tell you. There's that saying that you sell your company, it's supposed to be the greatest day in your life, right? To me, it was the worst day of my life. Honestly, it's like I hate it. It was the most miserable day, because I told my partners, I had partners, so we each own 50% of the company, right? So I had to sign off at the end of the day, but either I was going to end up with a disgruntled partner, right? Or I was going to be in a bad marriage, right? Or I was going to sell the company, and they looked at it like my partners are all in they're in the hockey business, but really they're in the high tech business, and they flip companies all the time. They sell companies all the time. This is what they do, right? So they just looked at Strikeforce as an asset, and hey, this is, you've already achieved your multiple like 8 times or whatever. This is a great. They were looking at me like, we don't understand why you don't get it.
Yeah,
because it's your baby.
You were
Because you guys
emotional.
didn't invest into this.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, they invested in it. And it's
Financially, not emotionally.
Yeah, exactly.
Big difference.
Strikeforce is a really cool name. It is.
Dude,
It's
I
hard
love
to,
it.
like, I'm
So,
trying, I was trying to think
so,
what a
so when
comparable
the
name.
UFC came to you, they were just trying to get the talent and kind of just monopolize the sport, really, right? Because you guys were the close thing they had to competition, not even close.
I mean, let's face it. We were as far as talent base. We were super competitive with them, and if you look at the champions they have today, like Luke Rockhold, Daniel Cormier, Tyron Woodley, Robbie Lawler, Nate Diaz, and Rondo was from there, Misha's from there. I mean, the names go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Their champions all came from our league, Strikeforce. So to me, but when I think about why sell it, is because my partners want to sell it, and so it was just an awkward situation. And at the end of the day, I said, I'm just going to let it go, because I was going to be in a bad relationship with these guys, And so
Did you come up with the name Bellator?
No, Bellator was created by, I think, Bjorn Rebney.
Yeah.
And,
What does that name mean?
See, and that's it means warrior in Latin. That's what it means.
Makes sense.
That's what it means. It means warrior. And really, if you look at the history of Bellator, it was created for a Spanish-speaking network, and it was created for ESPN Deportes. So that was their first distribution
That's
point.
where the name comes
So it was supposed to be a Spanish-speaking product, and then eventually evolved into the tournament. And then when I took it over, I said, look, I think you guys are doing a lot of great things, but we got to go big. We can't. I mean, I used to walk into fights, and it was it just had a small feel to it a little bit, and I said, like, we can't do that. Even though we don't have the roster right now that we need to, we got to go. We got to start building it. And now the roster's coming. And
the shows are getting bigger.
And let me tell you, our groundswell of talent that we have sitting on the bench right now is
be.
unbelievable. We have laid the foundation for the future, and and then we already have a current roster, and then we're going to buy some of the free agents.
Well, your resume shows it. I don't think anyone's going to look at Scott Coker's resume like, I don't think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's basically the Steve Jobs of MMA. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
if you look at a guy who's taken fight companies and grew them to these huge, you know what I'm saying?
That's
What
what's
they are.
fascinating to me is I always wonder with people like you, because I don't have a brain like this. I always wonder, I'm sure a lot of young people want to know this too, because like I always wonder how people like you, how your brain is organized and how you think of things. So, you're probably the kind of person that has always been somewhat entrepreneurial, right? Where you're saying, I think there's a market for this, right? Yeah. So can you articulate a little bit about how your brain works? And because you've been so successful, and this is the other thing we don't talk about. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys were the ones that actually broke the ceiling when it came to women's fighting in MMA.
Oh, yeah.
We were
I mean,
the
they're
only
by
one
far
that
the
had,
If you had told me that I'd be watching female fighters with the same excitement I watch men fight, I would have told you you're out of your mind. I'm talking about, this is 5 years ago. I would have said, hey, bro, I'm not one of these new age feminists or whatever. Yeah. And now I'm salivating.
Well, no, they had Sarah Kaufman, Misha Tate, Rhonda, and
Amanda
remember
Nunes,
there was a guy at another company. There was a guy at another company goes, women will never fight in this league. And then,
and he even said he was surprised at but Dana said it. If you had told me, I would have said the same thing. So you saw that,
right?
You seem to be able to predict what people are going to buy.
Well, you seem to predict the fight game, which is like predicting the weather in Denver, Colorado. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's such a beast, man.
So how do you organize your brain?
Because no one else can do it.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. No one else can do it.
I tell you, it's for 30 years or 31 years, this is pretty much what I focused on. And when I think about the female fighting, we were promoting female fights back in the 80s with female kickboxing, and it was some of the best fights these girls could really fight. It wasn't just like we had girls fighting to fight, like some exploitation. These are real skilled martial arts females. Look at Lucia Riker.
Yeah.
Look at I forgot the name of the.
Did you make $7 off those fights, especially in the 80s?
You know what?
Let's be real.
Hey, listen, I did
$7
okay.
is such an insulting amount.
I did okay. I did okay. It wasn't.
Yeah,
it
I'm
wasn't
sure.
bad.
Did you make $7?
No, but it's like with kickboxing compared to MMA, you just add a zero. If you lose, you lose add a zero. If you gain, you add a zero. That was really the game.
Yeah.
But I grew up in a martial arts school with women training all around me. So to me, when we had kickboxing fights, and these are some of the best fighters in the world, and they came from all over the planet to come fight in the Bay Area. We filmed it all for ESPN. So having females fight was like. It's like this is
no brainer.
This is
Not a
martial
big
arts,
deal.
man. It's like this is reality, right? And so they should be competing if they want to compete. And then when I got into MMA, this is a great story. Armando Garcia, who was running the commission at the time, says to me, "Well, men are approved for March 10th." And I said, "Well, I want to have Gina Carano fight." And he's like, "Well, no, females can't fight yet." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because the rules aren't approved for the females to fight." And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Yeah, we don't know if they should do 3-minute rounds or 5-minute rounds. So we couldn't have her fight on the inaugural event because of the athletic commission.
The commission wasn't ready.
Wasn't let you to do it.
They
And
weren't
I
even
was
thinking
like,
about it.
I was just like, this is crazy, man. This is
And what year was that?
in 2006.
Think how talented Gina Carano was, too.
So in 2000 and at the end of 06 or beginning of 07, Gina Carano fought Elena Maxwell. It was the first female fight licensed and regulated in the state of California.
That's
And
nuts, man.
Gina won the fight. It was a pretty competitive matchup, but she was the girl. She was the beginning of female fights in California, and then we started signing all these girls. But to me, it goes back to the martial arts school, man, because we trained with females that were very talented, and I brought in female fights from all over the world to come compete in kickboxing in Strikeforce kickboxing in the 90s and the early 2000s. So. To me, it was just a natural progression. It wasn't something that...
There's more society catching up with what you were already doing in
exactly.
your gym and stuff like
Exactly.
that.
I mean, you grew up in a martial arts school. You know, there's people training. This is martial arts. You can't put, a line between, oh, she shouldn't fight. Well, why shouldn't she fight?
Right.
Or he...
Then when did Cyborg come to you? Who did? Was it a Bob Cook thing? Was it your thing?
Cyborg was part of the... when we were dealing with Shootbox. And... They said, hey, we have this girl, and I think she was already fighting somewhere else, and we said, hey, let's take a look at her. And then when I saw her hitting the bag, and I was like, this girl's a beast. She's going to be the Mike Tyson of MMA.
That's exactly like she's a Mike Tyson.
Female Mike Tyson. Yeah, seriously.
Scary.
And
when you guys matched her up against Gina Carano, I was like, son of a bitch. Why would you
But
do
wait,
that
hold
to
on.
her?
Time out.
But
Time
remember,
out.
Gina did well.
Yeah, but she did well. But I
She
tell you
did
what,
very well.
this is the story behind that one. Sitting at a hotel in Beverly Hills with her manager, right? And I said,
Cyborg's
look,
manager.
No, Gina's manager.
Okay.
And so I said, listen, let's get our tuna fight because she hasn't fought in a little bit. Let's get her a couple tuna fights and then she can go fight Cyborg. And he's like, no, she wants to fight Cyborg or she doesn't want to fight.
Dang,
She wanted that fight, and so she wants to, push herself that limit, and she was scared of nobody.
There's that famous picture of her grabbing Gina's head.
Yeah.
And on Rogan's podcast, there's a picture, and she's got black nail polish, I believe, and her eyes are about as black as that nail polish. And
She looks like a great white shark.
yeah, and she's about to hit her, but Brendan, she's like right next to her ear, and Brendan's going, shh, go to sleep, bitch. Go to sleep, bitch.
It's so,
that picture is so fucking
I was like, how
eerie.
dare you, Cyborg?
Woo, I know.
Why would you do that? To backtrack a little, though, Scott, I'm trying to get through this whole storyline here. When the UFC bought Strikeforce, it was a sad day for you. You had to go work for Zuffa, right? It was a no-compete clause, but you still worked for the company.
So I was an employee of Zuffa for 3 years, but I think I saw them 3 times in the 3 years.
Oh, you weren't like in the office, like high-fiving Joe Silva and...
No.
That's the way I pictured it.
No. I was.
And they're like real mean to you?
You know what?
Hey,
let me
Scott,
tell you.
more coffee, huh?
More coffee, Scott.
Hey, Strikeforce boy, more coffee.
Yeah, right.
You know what? I went over there probably twice, and the first time I went there, I sat in the office, nice glass office, and I'm just sitting around and going, well, there's really nothing for me to do. Like, I literally got on my iPad, played Angry Birds for a little bit, and then there's a true story.
You kind of know what you're doing.
It's a true story,
That's what
right?
fight moguls do.
Yeah.
Well, and then I went home and I was like, and there was a fight that weekend, so I went in early just to hang out and talk to everybody. And then I'm like, I don't know if they really want me around here anyway.
Of course they don't, because you're going to learn the procedure, like
Yeah.
exactly the in and outs of
So
it.
I think that both sides knew. Like there was going to be a beginning, a middle, middle, and an end to that relationship at some point. And then, but 3 years from then, you're like, okay, well, what are you going to do? Are you really going to go back in the MMA?
Because the 3 years is a no compete, correct?
That's right.
That's why you took 3 years.
And you decided, yes, I am going to go back into it and start another organization.
Yeah,
and
but that didn't start until about 6 months of the ending of that non-compete. Before that, I mean, I was traveling all over the world, golfing all over the place, and just having a good time. And it was something to be said about stopping and being able to stop and smell the roses and look at your accomplishments and really go from 100 miles an hour and really just ramp it down to like 5 miles an hour.
Spend some of that cash.
Yeah, and then get to know your friends and get this people because when you're on this path like we are right now, it is a
you don't have
whirlwind.
time to see your old friends and grab a beer.
And
stuff
they're like
that.
people call you up now and go, hey, what are you doing, man? You want to hang out? I'm like, I got no time. I'm like, it's just a different
There's no
life.
way.
You're just going, man. You're just going.
He said this the other day. He said, there's somebody who called him and wanted to hang out, and Brendan was like, I don't really hang out. I mean, unless it's about business or I'm helping somebody.
Right.
I don't really want to go have a beer and just chat because
it's not productive.
It's just not where.
Yeah. Because you're trying to grow something,
man.
And it takes.
And it doesn't involve playing grab ass with my buddies and talking about old times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Yeah.
But and it's I try to still go golf with some buddies and hang out and stay in touch. But the most time I'm on the road, man. And this the international expansion of Bellator, which has been very successful. We had our first event in Torino, Italy.
Yeah.
Had 13,000 people there. We had the cage come down from the top, and it was fantastic. But to go to Tel Aviv, to go to Argentina, to go to Florence and Budapest, and I mean it's in London. We just did a great show in London. It's time consuming, man, and you are super busy.
Are you guys making such an international push because the market here in America, not that it's tailored out or that's evened off, but there's just so much more potential internationally?
The one thing about the ownership group of Bellator is that it's owned by Viacom, as you guys know, right? And so they have networks all over the planet.
Octopus.
And so as we start doing all these distribution deals around the planet, they're like, hey, come to London, Channel 5, which Viacom owns Channel 5, which is like owning CBS here.
Yeah. And
so Channel 5 says, please come. We want to have an event in London and show Bellator, which Viacom owns, and on Channel 5, which Viacom owns. And, so it's kind of this great relationship because you're not out there looking for a TV deal. You already have a TV deal everywhere you go. And so it's basically all the networks around the world saying, please bring Bellator here. We have great ratings. You guys are doing fantastic. But if you brought an event here, we could take it to the next level, and then we could. It's
a good problem to have.
No, it's
really
great.
But
it makes it a lot easier.
Isn't it? It's more about finding the talent to get that audience to react to it, right, and tune in. So, like in England, you guys have Michael Venom Page. So he's
what a talented guy.
What? Ooh, yeah. It's nuts.
It's
man.
amazing. Yeah, the stuff that he does is like watching a karate movie.
Seen it. I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Is he the gentleman that dented?
Yeah.
Cyborg's
broke
head?
Cyborg's face.
I'm not kidding. When I was right there, like sitting cage side, and I heard that pop, and I'm like, this is not good.
That can't be good.
This
Especially the way a guy of his magnitude, a veteran, rolling on the ground. I was like, something's really wrong.
Right. I thought his broke it, like smashed.
Me too. I thought it was his nose.
He gets up and he's got this like somebody threw a fastball.
How was he doing? Because the doctor said he'd only seen that kind of damage from bad car accidents.
You know what? He actually had surgery, and the doctor said it's stronger now than it was before. The way that it's repaired. I've seen it one other time when Kung Lee was fighting Scott Shealy. In a Sancho fight, and he threw him, and his face went into the mat first, and he broke his cheekbone, and the cheekbone just like indented into his face. But this was a lot worse because it sounded like somebody broke a baseball bat on a table. When
you on TV, you heard it was like.
Did Michael's knee hurt at all? Or?
He said he didn't feel it.
Yeah.
It was just like that perfect shot. Boom. And
right
the sweet spot.
Wow.
In the face.
But getting back to your point, because we do have Paul Daly there. We do have MVP there. We do have Lyndon Vassell there. We have Liam McGarry, who's from the UK. And it started.
I forgot about Liam.
Yeah, we started 2 years ago when we did a show called The British Invasion at the Mohegan Sun.
Yeah.
And it was like the USA guys against the British guys. And I said, this should go to the O2 Arena. And then we started working on that. And a lot of trials and tribulations, to finally make it all happen. But I thought the show was amazing, and it really delivered.
So 5 years from now, you said you have a 5-year plan. You're way ahead of schedule. What do you see 5 years from now? What's your goal?
We'll have a lot more fighters, a lot more star fighters. We'll be right now. When I started, we were in 85 countries. Now we're in 140, maybe we get to 180 countries. And
Are you looking for talent in those countries? That's what I'm trying to get to. We keep.
Yeah.
So when you go to England, you go to Tel Aviv, you go to wherever in Africa, wherever you guys are going next. Are you guys trying to recruit local talent? You know what I'm saying? Because
it's
if you put a fight on in Hong Kong, and you just have two giant white dudes fighting.
Right.
They're kind of like, all right, man.
Yeah,
they really
No.
don't buy in.
People want the local kid
Yeah.
to do well. But I think the beauty about Bellator is we can have, the stars of our current sport now fighting, but find those guys on the undercard and give them a place to fight,
Sure.
on the card somewhere to where, the local fans can feel like it's tailored to them. But I totally agree with you because, when you go to, I don't know, let's say, Brazil, they want to see a lot of Brazilian fighters. You go to Japan, they want to see a lot of Japanese fighters.
They want to see their people.
It's like the
competing.
Olympics. I mean, America is probably the one country where, the Olympics happen, and then if America loses a basketball or baseball, click,
Yeah.
they'll just turn
100%.
off, right?
Yeah.
They just turn off.
Yeah.
And not every country's like that, but I think there's a nationalistic, attitude about sports in general that they want to feel like their country is the best.
People are tribal.
And with you guys growing so fast internationally, how tough is it for you, Scott, to tell, let's say, a young prospect, sign with us, don't sign with these guys, with all the other leagues? Like, how tough of a challenge is that for you guys?
I'll tell you, I think that around the world, there's ONE FC, there's UFC, there's us.
World Series.
There's World Series of fighting. But, at the end of the day, I sit down with these guys and I said, look, like I sat down with Rory. I said, I don't want this to be just about the money thing. To me, it's like, do you want to come here? Do you want to be part of Bellator? Because if you don't, then we shouldn't have a relationship. I don't care what we pay you, and same thing when I sat down with Phil Davis, when I sat down with all these guys, it's like, look, I want to know that you want to come fight for us. This is what we'll do. This is how much we can pay. But if this is just a money thing, then maybe you should just stay where you're at.
Yeah, it's not for you.
Yeah.
So a guy like Rory MacDonald, who I think it's your biggest signing ever. If you look at the magnitude of Rory, his reach in Canada, with GSP basically gone. He might do one more, who knows? But he's basically done. He might do one more super fight. But Rory MacDonald, he's young. He's the face of Canada.
Right.
He's in his prime. He just needs to heal his nose.
Right.
He just happens to be the best welterweight in the world, but not named Robbie Lawler or Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. But he can beat those guys.
Yeah.
I think he's your guys' biggest signing of all time.
And I
in
tell you,
Bellator.
yeah.
I'm not talking about Strikeforce, all your other
No. I agree with you. I think that based on the social numbers that we've seen over the last 2 or 3 days, he has been the biggest signing that we've had so far. And I'll say this honestly, guys, it's like when we were promoting Strikeforce, right? And then people say, oh, Strikeforce fighters can't fight the UFC guys. Well, now they're all the UFC champions, right?
Yeah.
So we're a good talent, scout, selection guys. And so when I look at our welterweight division, I mean, I think we have the best welterweight division on the planet now. Because if you look at Koreshkov, who's a beast.
Nightmare.
Beast. Lima, who's another beast.
Nightmare.
And you put Rory in there. You put MVP in there. You put Fernando Gonzalez, who's going to fight MVP. And
that's a tough fight for
they,
MVP.
they could fight. Those guys could fight anybody on any planet. But to me, as far as the depth of our 170 pound, it's I'd go up against anybody with that.
And with a guy like Roy, I was telling your boys when they came in, we were talking a little bit about Roy. I know Roy very well. We've trained together. We've been out on the town together. People think Roy's this introverted, like
I do. That's how I
he's
see him as a
not.
fan.
That's why I'm telling. Like you guys need he seems that way. He's very calculated. He's very smart. He's funny. He's actually pretty outgoing.
We don't
he
see
really
that,
is,
yeah.
man.
I wish we'd
I
see
know.
more of that, yeah.
He really is.
I'll tell you what. When I saw him walking down the ramp, I go, man, this guy feels really comfortable. I could tell. He had a little swagger to him. Said all the right things, and I think he's going to do well in Bellator. He's going to have some tough fights here. Him and Daly, I think it'll be a great fight. I think him and Lima, Koreshkov,
They're all tough fights.
They're all
Koreshkov's
tough
gonna
fights.
be,
Yeah,
That's-
and but walking down that ramp, in the crowd, just giving him the accolades that he deserves. I said this is going to be a great home for him.
Does he get a title shot right away? Once
we
his nose heals?
we haven't even talked about that. But it's like whether it's a title shot or a super fight, or we throw a 170-pound welterweight tournament. It's like who knows? We have some fun stuff ahead for Rory.
Yeah, and because he said he's probably not going to fight to I watched your guys' press conference, and he said he's probably not going to fight to 2017 because of his nose. It still hasn't healed.
Yeah.
Even when he fought Wonder Boy, he's like, my nose just wasn't ready. I rushed back into it.
Yeah. That was a bad break. So
that was tough.
Yeah,
man.
he fell when he fell to the ground like that. I guess he couldn't see. I guess he went blind.
He said it went all white, and he just couldn't see anything.
Yeah, that's a scary. I mean, listen, no one wants anybody to get hurt like that, know. So I just said, Rory, you take your time. You call us when you're ready, and in the meantime, we're gonna continue growing this company. We're gonna bring more fighters in, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. I believe that more free agents are gonna start calling, and which they have, and people that want to fight their contracts out. And
I think the reason why, obviously your track record proves it, but a lot of reason why I think guys like Rory, Phil Davis, Mitrione are headed your way is because the UFC did this deal with the Reebok where you take away the identity of the fighter and they have to wear uniforms. And guys are like,
too.
Well, that'd be that's what I'm talking about. So they would go, hold on, you're gonna take this, you're gonna lower this, but nothing else changes. We can't have this, man. So I think that was one of your guys' biggest advocates because I know me and Matt talked before he signed with you guys. I talked to Phil. A lot of them like, it just doesn't. I mean, they can do all this stuff. I don't have to wear it just doesn't make sense.
I think, and a fighter is an individual athlete that fights twice a year, maybe 3 times a year. He has certain shelf life, and then he's got to make his money now, right? And so you put him into. Which I don't understand because I don't understand how can you make an independent contractor even wear a uniform? That still makes me
pretty contradicting.
This is like this is some labor laws they should look at here, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't even know, but how do you make an individual fall into a uniform? I've never seen it. To me, I've always seen fights as, hey, they're their own people. Let them do their thing. As long as it doesn't conflict with some of the sponsors or it's not just some crazy sponsor they're trying to bring to the table. That. Let them. I mean, in boxing, it's the same way. Manny Pacquiao has his sponsors. Mayweather has his sponsors. To me, what's wrong with that?
When you saw them sign that deal, were you thinking to yourself, "Here we go"?
No. I said this is a good thing for us.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Here we go. Like we're gonna get so much positive feedback from this.
It feels like it was a bad thing not only for the fighters but for Reebok as well.
I don't know, and I don't know them, so I'm not sure what it is. But just looking at the uniforms, like the first set of uniforms that came out, I was like. It's would you? I don't know.
Just
I wouldn't wear it.
Do better. When I first saw them, you got to be kidding.
To be fair, I think the newer ones look pretty cool.
Yeah,
they're getting better. It's not a matter of cool or anything like. It's a matter of the fighters are getting paid.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like
it also killed an entire market, which was managers, sponsors, for the fighters.
Oh, I know a ton of managers just got out of the game.
Yeah,
they're like,
because they said, what are we selling? But hey, listen, tell them to come over to Bellator. There's a home over here for them.
True.
And, we can hang out and they can have a good time.
How do you guys decide who you're gonna kind of approach and not? Because you obviously you've done it a million times. You've got guys from the ground up you've built, and then you've been acquiring these huge free agents. You obviously don't want everyone. You can't.
No, we've turned down a couple people.
Yeah,
and some sizable names. I don't want to get into the names, but we've turned down a couple people because I felt like it's value versus return, right? And then also upside. Rory's a kid that's 24, 26, 27. He'll have many years ahead of him, but maybe this fighter's 34, 35. The kind of money he wants, is there an upside for him for us to build him for the next 10 years? Maybe not. We've done fun fights, with Hoyce and Ken, and that's kind of like a one-time thing where these guys had the first fight, the second fight, or the first fight.
Are those super popular? I mean,
the ratings are off
nuts.
the hook.
Yeah,
really?
Here's a statistic that'll blow you away. I think the last Fox show on UFC did like 2 million people. Kimbo Slice on CBS had the highest rating ever. And he fought James Thompson, 7.5 million people.
God.
7.5
There's a reason
million.
why they do it. I think Rogan and I were talking about this, maybe on a podcast, but we were talking about how Ken Shamrock versus Hoyce and Kimbo versus Ken. And I'm like, as a MMA purist, I'm like, I don't really want to see it.
Right.
As a businessman, you have. I mean, it gets so many views, so many rate. Like my mom knows who Kimbo Slice is. She's gonna watch that.
Yeah.
So I think, and you tell me, man, you guys, for a while there, you were teetering on kind of like it's a little bit of a spectacle, and then some was a sport. Because you'd have those, and then the undercard would be, great fights.
Yeah.
But then, the Ken Shamrock versus Hoist or Kimbo versus Ken, it's a little gimmicky, right?
Well, here's the thing is that, are they going to be the best fights on the planet? No, but to me, they were fun fights that, we knew were going to attract a different audience. We'll cast a little bit bigger net.
Yeah.
Because the hardcore fight fans want to see hardcore fights.
Yeah.
And I would say, honestly, 90% of the time, that's what we're doing, right? We're throwing hardcore fights.
Correct.
But once a year or once every 18 months, we sprinkle it with this guy or that guy. To me, it's like the Bob Sapp versus Nogueira fight. It's like, why not let it happen?
Yeah.
When Akebono fought Hoist Gracie, to me, that was like, this is crazy, right?
Sure.
Bob Sapp versus Akebono. I mean, I just love those fights. I love as a fan engaging it. And, the owner of K1, I said this at the press conference, came to me. One day I asked him, I said, Contra, why do you do like the fights between, this guy and this guy? Why don't you just do Peter Arts fighting Ernesto Hus or Jerome LeBanner? He said, when I do Peter Arts against Jerome LeBanner, the hardcore fight fans tune in. But when I do Akebono versus Bob Sapp or Hoist Gracie or, Nogueira, the whole country watches.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And so
Yes.
that's really what it comes down to. Is
It's
that
because there's a huge part of it that's not just sport; it's also entertainment. Fighting
entertainment.
has always been that way. The
And-
build up, the talking. It is mano a mano.
Mm-hmm.
It's boxing was always about showmanship for a long time.
Right.
At least the ones that we talk about. Look at
right.
Muhammad Ali,
Oh,
etc.
yeah.
So
Mayweather.
that's
I'm sure Spike and Viacom, they love the ratings of those. But you being a MMA purist, fight purist, I see you guys, especially now, pulling a little bit back from it, right?
Well, but the plan
Because you
wasn't
guys
to-
have so much. You guys are building the depth
Yeah,
of the
I mean,
division.
the thing is that like you'll probably see those fights once every year, once every 18 months. The plan was never to go in there and say, hey, let's just do these spectacle fights.
Throwback Thursdays.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's build a real company and sprinkle it with these fun fights once in a while, and we're gonna stay true to that.
Let me ask you this, because the UFC has been dealing with this a lot. PEDs. It's no secret that, and I've had very candid conversations with big fighters who basically say, "Oh, I put the percentage up around 95%."
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just the demanding sport. That's a sport has its demands on a body, and when
Right.
you're, especially as you're getting older, but not even, just staying healthy, staying injury free, being able to compete at that level, the pressure to help yourself out with whatever it might be is enormous, and it works. So you guys are not dealing with the same kind of stuff. I don't believe that
They're not. You guys aren't
USADA.
USADA, right?
No, we're not self-regulating. You
Yeah.
know, to me, I don't think you can self-regulate as a league. You know, and here's what I mean by that. It's like at the end of the day, it's it's going to be your decision, right? Like you're the owner of the company. Even if you hire USADA, you're the one paying them.
Yeah.
Who's that information coming to? It's not going to a third party. It's coming back to you
Because you hired them.
because you hired them, right? So to me, I'm not saying their situation, but I'm just talking about in general.
Sure.
There needs to be a third party that's
Isn't that
not
the commission though?
the commission. That's who we allow to test our athletes.
So
And
they do test. There is a Nevada, whatever.
That's right.
Okay.
So like California, we'll tell Andy Foster who the main event is. He'll go out and he'll test them. Right, and he'll test them the night of the fight. They do the testing. It's an independent third party. The commission was created in the states to protect the consumer from the promoter from the consumer, and like all three parties are protected. So it's an independent. So if Andy Foster pops a fighter, there's no skin off of his back,
Sure.
And so it's just this is what the reality is, and he's on suspension, and just like they did with Shlemenko or whoever, some of our fighters before. So they're going to be on
Yes,
suspension.
but USADA is so thorough. Whatever machinery they're using, these guys are catching guys for.
What's random
My-
testing 365 days a year?
Yeah, but also I think that they are using more sophisticated technology than, say, the commission has certain limited resources.
It's also $40,000 a test.
There you go. 40,000, 45,000, I think, for human growth and stuff like that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. At the end of the day, when you're a self-regulator, you're the judge, the jury, and the executioner, right? And I don't think that's right. And I think that the commissions are always trying to step it up, and we'll support them. We'll support the ABC if they want to do. We hired Mike Mazzulli and the Mohegan Commission to run our testing in London because there was no testing in London. So
Certain
we've
countries
gone
have no
out of our
testing.
ways, to make this work. But at the end of the day, it's like, you don't want to be stuck in a business situation where, you're getting a lot of heat because, when did this test result come? When did that test result really come? And then people started getting, hey, pointing fingers at you and creating a lot of heat on your company, because at the end of the day, you're hiring that company. So to me, it's not something that we're going to do.
Yeah.
And because, this is a controversial thing to say, but a large part of Pride had amazing fights, but there was no secret that they looked very different. There was a lot of steroid use in that league, and it made for really explosive, powerful athletes. And you could argue, in some ways, it made for even more exciting fights. And so, I guess I was going to ask you a question you can't answer, because really would you even have testing?
I mean, to me, the fighters should be tested. Because if one guy's not doing it and the other guy's doing it, that's just not fair.
But the other part is we so many people talk about MMA and PEDs. It's in every professional sport. It's in the Olympics. It's in tennis. It's not an MMA problem. No. It's a sports problem.
Yes.
Right.
The NFL has it. NBA has
Right.
it. NHL has it. Everyone has it.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to point the finger at MMA and go, "Oh, those guys do PEDs." No. When guys like me get caught, it gets blasted out because we're an individual.
Look at baseball. Look at everybody at one point was.
Well, if you watch NFL Network, at the bottom of the screen it say blah blah blah, suspended 4 games for performance enhancing.
Right.
We
Football,
don't even blink
all
an
the
eye.
time.
We're
athletes
like,
are going to
cool.
do whatever they can to get that edge.
Well, and the difference I think is, those guys are trying to hit a ball, catch a ball, run a pass.
Correct.
But you're fighting somebody else. You might hurt them.
Yes.
Right.
Life-changing.
Yeah. So you could hurt them. And then is it fair that you're doing PEDs and you hurt somebody that's not doing PEDs in training? I mean, it's just not fair.
Sure.
So listen, we're going to do what we can, but I think honestly there should be a federal government testing agency that's a third party that maybe all the leagues can come fund.
Because right now it's
that
state
runs
run.
that.
Right now it's pretty much state run commissions or.
Yeah, the state.
Okay, so there are no federal guidelines. This
There's
is
no
more
federal,
state.
but there needs to be a federal independent body
That makes sense.
that says,
Who
"Hey,
doesn't-
you know what? We're going to go test this guy, and
Correct.
we get the results back first, and then we're going to decide what happens with that guy or that girl, and not somebody that you're
that is strange.
employing." So to me, that's the difference.
Because I was always in the impression with the UFC when USADA gets a test, I thought USADA was in cahoots with the commission, and it was out of Dana's hands. So when USADA, which is run by that guy with the bald head who did the Barry Bonds thing, I think. But when they get that result, so when John Jones tests positive for a banned substance, you see Dana going, "Oh, damn it." You see Daniel going, "I can't believe it." So it does look
Well,
like
who do
it's
they
out of his
report
hands.
to, though?
The commission, don't they?
No,
Well,
because if they test them out of state, why would they report to that
Yeah.
commission?
What happens if they're fighting in a state that doesn't even have a commission?
Right.
Or you're fighting
But
on
the UFC
internet.
hired those guys. They hired them,
Right.
and part of it was because I think they got really, really angry and sick of having fights canceled last minute because people were popping.
Well, and now it's never been worse.
Now it's
Yeah,
even
yeah,
worse.
Yeah, but I also think they did it because the selling, like you know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to purchase that company,
You want to make
have
it clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Well,
sense.
listen,
There's
I
a
think
lot that goes into
their way of doing it, I think is their way of doing it. Our way is just going to be different, but I think we're both trying to accomplish the same thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I just think that it needs to be a third party that has no vested interest. That says, "Hey, this is how it's going to go down."
That makes sense.
It's like the Olympics when they test you at the Olympics. It doesn't go back to one team or one country. It's the Olympic testing committee.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they tell you you're out.
Yeah.
Or you're in. Or and that's what we need. We need.
And I
an
think everyone
independent
finds
third
out
party.
the same day too in the Olympics. It's not like they give someone a heads up. Like everyone, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you find out like with this, like the day before you're
I know,
going to
that's
fight
nuts.
it. What?
It's
Right
like,
before
oh,
you're
what do
diving.
you mean I'm out? Yeah.
I mean, hey man, I was excited. Don't let anything go wrong. Can you not test this time,
To
please?
change the subject of PEDs, I think we've covered that. But how do you, there's so much potential in a guy like Michael Venom Page. How do you guys kind of cultivate him into this superstar that he's becoming, and without giving him kind of perfect fights? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Not that his next fight's very tough,
Yeah.
but it's a very tough balance. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you can't toss Kimbo Slice, rest in peace. You can't toss a guy like Kevin Ferguson, of an amazing wrestler. It's like, come on, we don't want to watch that, man.
No, we you know what you're getting when you watch Kimbo Slice. And MVP is a guy that's continuing to learn. He's a young kid. He's continuing to learn. He's getting better. His last fight, I mean, people thought, Cyborg came off that victory with Brendan Ward.
Yeah.
Who's a great wrestler.
Yeah.
Right? And then and then he fought MVP. They thought that he was going to take him down, and it was a toss-up. We put this kid in some dangerous situations too, and the next fight will be tough. Fernando's a tough kid, and he's got at this point he's got to go fight the guys. That's
so
really
now it's just the chains are off. He's kind of do your thing, man.
He's kind of on his own now at this point. We got to this point, and now he's got to go do it.
Because he wins this one, then you're up there, with the big dogs, Lima, and then you got Rory MacDonald, maybe.
Tough fights in that weight class, man.
Yeah.
Tough fights. That's
no easy fights.
Yeah, murderer's row right there.
When I was watching the press conference with Rory, I feel like one of the reasons he signed was because he's allowed to compete at 170 and 185. Like his dreams to be a 2-division champion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, right now in Bellator, you have to be one or the other, right? But if he can't make 70 anymore, he has to go to 85. Then
is 70 hard for him to get down to?
I don't know.
He's been doing his whole career. He's never fought at 85.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think he would like to, and it's going to be up to him.
So you wouldn't let him do 70, 85. He would have to. So he'd be champ at 70. Vacate that belt, then go to 85?
Yeah, or maybe, if he won both, then he would have to vacate one or the other
That
at
makes
some
sense.
point. That's, to give other athletes an opportunity.
That makes sense.
One of the things I always wonder about a guy in your position who has a lot of employees, thinks about things like taxes and where to hold fights and stuff. How much does this election matter to you? Like, do you have a dog in this race, and if so, why?
You know what? I tell you, it's an interesting time in the history of this country, and
or a shitty time. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
there's a lot of
I mean, I have my own political views, which I'll keep to myself, out of respect for the two candidates, but it's just going to be a challenging time. That's what I think.
Yeah, I'm not
either way.
I'm not
either
happy
way.
with either candidate.
That's fair.
I wish we had more options. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. That's fair.
So do I.
Let's go to some fan questions. Fan questions. Evan the Cub, the Bear.
Fan questions for Scott Coker.
We had a billion questions for you, man. You
we
can
got
answer
time.
these questions, and we'll get you out of here. I know you got to go scout the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find the next
Freaking-
guys or girls.
He's got things to build.
Gilbert
guys.
Melendez. How biased are you towards guys like Gilbert Melendez and Thompson? These guys,
Let me tell
because
you, man.
those are your guys, man.
All the guys that have moved on to the UFC or different leagues, I'm like the dad with the clicker of the baseball game. Like 1, 2 victories, 3. Okay, we lost 1. And our record, I think it's like 70%, 75%. That's a pretty good.
And
pretty good
those
record.
guys are super loyal to you. Like you hear Gil and you hear Thompson and all Rockhold. All these guys are like, man, Coker's the best, man.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, I think, you give them a chance to go fight for you, they're gonna do it.
Yeah, and the thing is that it's my philosophy is, look, this is a people business, and I really admire, respect. I'm a fan of these guys.
Yeah.
And it's not just I'm the promoter. Hey, these are friends of mine. These are I'm their biggest fan when they fight, and it's tough. Like when Melendez fought Thompson, both these guys are your buddies, and then you're like, oh, but what a great fight that trilogy was. It was amazing.
Heck yeah.
But my point was, look, at the end of the day, we're just people, and to me, this is a people business, and those are my guys.
I'd be so different if I was you. I'd be so mean.
You'd be mean.
I'd be like,
I think
carry
that's how
me.
most people are.
I'm not walking this. I feel like being carried today.
You'd make them bow
I
when they
would.
walk
Why are
by.
you not bowing to me?
I'd throw peanuts
And
at
you
them.
have to call me Monster Coker.
What do you got, Ev?
All right, first question we got for you, Scott. Would Bellator intentionally aligning and backing a fighters union publicly create more incentive for more big-name fighters to leave the UFC and join Bellator?
That's a good question. To me, I'm not sold that the fighters union would work.
They don't have it figured out yet.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, and the thing about it is, like, you're asking a guy that fights twice a year, to please, you got to sit out, or like if it gets to that point where you got to strike, or like, it's an individual sport.
Yeah.
Like you said, an association might work better than a union.
But it's all the like I said, the more you guys grow, the better. That's the overall. Yeah. If you guys want fast results, you want Bellator to grow as big as possible and create the competition. But I think it's and I said the same thing about Dana White and you. It's also not you guys' responsibility to make these unions or associations happen. That's not your business. It's not. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, the thing is, when I was with Strikeforce, and I partnered with the Sharks and took them in. They treated it like a union. We said, okay, 62% of the income of this company is going to go to fighter purses.
62%.
Yeah, bang. That's how we operated, right? So we pay the fighters well. Everybody's happy, but it doesn't mean that it has to be a union. Treat the fighters fair. treat the fighters well, and then you don't need to have a union.
Yeah.
Right?
I heard a statistic, and I don't know if it's true. Do you have any idea that the UFC was paying something like 7% of?
Yeah, I mean that's all speculation, right?
Yeah,
I mean, who
okay.
really knows?
Okay,
Unless
that's
you
what
look
I
at the
thought.
books, But yeah, I've heard that
I've heard 14%.
but the overhead is a lot higher than maybe a boxing model because when
Completely
you have,
different,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
completely different. So
we don't know.
yeah, we don't know. And
Okay.
then my thing is on the guys that are trying to form all this stuff, and really what's their motivation?
That's my number thing. What's their agenda? Because where the hell you been all this time?
Yeah, exactly.
And then all of a sudden they get a number finally that organization's worth $4 billion. Now you have all these guys coming out
That's
the
right.
closet. It's like,
That's right.
whoa,
No,
where were
you're
you guys
right.
a couple
Brandon,
of
you're
years
right.
ago, man?
You are
It's a
100% right.
little
Sorry, what are you
strange.
talking about? Like all the guys coming out. Who coming out of the closet?
Everyone is
Like
trying
the
to form unions,
and
associations. It's
Okay.
very
Like
strange.
that happened after the $4 billion mark.
You mean
I saw.
lawyers and people like that? Yeah.
Exactly.
Because they see blood in the water. There's
You know-
they're not doing it because
Yeah.
they give a shit about Gilbert Melendez
That's right.
or Anthony Pettis or Bigfoot Silva. They don't care about that.
Right.
They
Right.
don't care about Rory MacDonald's nose healing. What?
Yeah.
They care about dollar signs, which is it's tough, man.
That's
Yeah, but Randy's been trying to get the union together for a
Yeah,
while.
we had Randy in here and we were talking about it in
He's a big
the
supporter.
association. Yeah.
And it's like we have a good relationship with Randy, and we definitely listen to his comments and his thoughts on everything, and but I just think that when the time comes, the fighters are going to fight, and that's really what's going to come down to.
Yeah.
What else you got, Ev?
All right, next question. What are your thoughts on CM Punk's debut?
Boy, that's going to be fun. I mean, to me, I'm gonna be watching and check it out. I'm a fan of the sport. I watch all the different fighting.
Would you guys ever do something like that? Like, would you sign a Triple H for one fight or something like that?
I mean, why not? I mean, to me, it's like, hey, this is Spike TV is an entertainment channel.
Yeah.
It's Bellator is real fights, but like I said, that fits our model. Is that
He's taken about 2 years to train for this, I think.
Yeah, but this is my thing, Scott. And especially with your background in scouting talent and knowing martial arts, growing up in a gym, do you not feel like, as a MMA purist or martial art purist, a guy with zero background jumping in there? Like, I love the New York Yankees. The Yankees, if I call them up and go, hey, man, I want to take some swings. Do you mind if I jump in there and throw a couple balls out when you guys are playing the Mets? They go, are you kidding me? What's your background? So to me, it's a little bit, and I appreciate him. I appreciate him as an individual, like the balls it takes to even do this.
Yeah.
However, it's a little when there's no background, it makes me squeamish a little bit.
Well, he has been training, I understand, at a reputable gym and trying to get better. And listen, it could be a rough night for him, right?
Yeah, Mickey
Doesn't
Gall's
mean-
tough.
Yeah, and so reality comes into play here at some point where and so I just hope that it's a fair fight and that it's something that nobody gets hurt.
I guess the reason why I'm a little uneasy about, like, where do you stop? Like, Brad Pitt's a bigger star than CM Punk. Let's say Brad Pitt's like, I love me some fighting, man. Hey, Scott,
I'll watch that.
Hey, can I fight Michael Venom Page at 170?
Well, it comes down
where's
to,
it stop?
It comes down to how many butts in the seat. I mean, CM Punk.
You don't
is gonna
think
get a lot of
Brad
people-
Pitt would sell some
That's what I'm saying.
tickets?
That's what I'm saying, is that money at the end of the day in this business is going to talk. And
How much money do you need?
Well, if you could sell, I mean, I can't imagine what that pay-per-view would be. If Brad Pitt said, I'm going to take 2 years to train.
a ridiculous
and fight,"
example,
but
but-
not maybe, but I'm just saying there are actors that would do it. I'm going to take 2 years. I'm very famous to fight and prove I'm not just a tough guy in the movies. I'm a tough guy in real life. We would tune the fuck in.
And here's the difference. It's like, look at Bob Sapp, right? Pro wrestler, right? Kind of like CM Punk, pro football player. Amazing athlete. He goes in and has this epic fight with Nogueira, and then he continues that year to knock out Ernesto Hoost.
K1, yes.
Not once. I mean, this is the champion, like the
Yeah.
king of all kings.
Yeah.
I know.
Not once, but twice,
Yeah.
right? So you never know what's going to happen, right? That's really what it comes down to. Is
Yeah.
that how hard has he been training? How great is he? But
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, and that's that's
And people are going to tune in. I get why they did it. I 100% get
Yeah.
that. I'm just saying, as a MMA purist, it's a little, where do we draw this
Also,
line
as a
at?
fighter who worked his way into the UFC the way you did, going to in the Ultimate Fighter, all the risk
Sure.
it took, all the training that you did for 8 years, for a long time.
And I heard they offered him to go on the Ultimate Fighter. He's like, no, I'm not doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So you can understand how a lot of fighters like Nate Diaz and stuff, guys are like, dude, I got myself here through just years of
And
blood,
he's making
sweat,
more
and
money than
tears.
him.
Sure, and then But again, this is a sport. It's also entertainment. It's also something people like to watch.
Yeah, I don't hate on the decision at all.
And the guys that have fought or that have pro wrestled, look how many guys in Japan that came from pro wrestling. Sakuraba, Barnett.
That's right.
It's like they all came from Antonio Inoki's.
They also have a
pro
martial
wrestling.
art background, though, Scott.
Well, that style of fighting in Japan kind of leads to real fighting,
Real
right?
stuff, yeah.
But the wrestling, I think the wrestling component, or even pro wrestling, those guys have made a good transition, or have more success than maybe somebody that was a baseball player or somebody that was a football player, or that's really what I think.
Well, you guys got Bobby Lashley, but remember, and I've trained with Bobby for years. He's such a badass. Bobby Lashley is a guy who was a military champion wrestler.
Yes, the guy was a real wrestler. Legitimate.
Bobby, I've trained with a lot of guys. Yeah. I've seen all of them get taken down. I've never seen Bobby Lashley get taken down.
What?
Ever.
Wow, that's interesting.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Ever. Wow. And you talk to his training partners, like, I've never seen him get taken down.
Wow.
That's crazy.
He's an
Ever.
amazing athlete. I mean, Bob Cook calls me and says, I got this guy. He's in the military right now, but he's getting out. And his name's Bobby Lashley. We should sign him. Sends me these pictures. Okay, let's go sign him. And then he went to the WWE instead, right? That's kind of how that went down.
Have you ever seen him?
No. Just a
specimen. He's jacked. Yeah, and literally he trains with Barnett, everyone.
Yeah.
Remember, he would do circuits with Carwin, myself, and him. Those were the three of us.
Yeah,
Again,
and you take a lot of
never
people down.
seen him ever get taken down. How weird is that?
Jeez.
It's crazy.
That's very
what else you got, Ev? He has something coming up with you guys, right?
Yeah, he's fighting in Memphis on the 21st of October.
All right, next one.
Great
What
guy,
do you think of Michael Chandler saying he'd move up to 170 to face Rory MacDonald? And what other potential huge matchups are you looking to make?
Well, Chandler has Benson, right?
Yeah, Chandler Benson, November
fight.
19th.
Last time we were in here, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing. November 19th, San Jose. That's going to be home of MMA right there.
We take a little flight up.
Yeah, you guys should come up. It's going to be an amazing fight.
Yeah.
And MVP's fighting Gonzalez on that undercard.
Is he really?
Yeah, that's summit. Yeah, that's summit.
You need to see that guy.
Yeah, we should get in there.
And
so are you cool with Chandler? So granted, he's getting a little bit ahead of himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think Chandler, besides Roy, is probably your most talented fighter on the roster. As far if you want to talk about a guy who could probably win the belt anywhere, think about it. He beat Eddie Alvarez, who's the champion of the UFC right now, twice, right?
Yeah, he's tough.
So he's getting a little ahead of himself, but he has to get through Benson.
Mm-hmm.
If he got through Benson, would you be down for a super fight between him and Roy if the time
Why
worked
not?
out?
If they want to. I mean, let's face it. These guys are cutting to make that weight. It's not like Mike.
Yeah, they're all.
He's cutting
Mike
hard.
walks at 190.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Mike walks at
That's
190.
crazy.
How tall
That's
is
nuts.
Mike?
He's got to be what, 5'8", 5'8", 7",
Maybe
5'8"?
5'8".
That's a thick dude.
Muscular,
Hey,
too.
Mike Tyson was 5'10", fighting a guy 6'5".
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chandler's a beast, and if he wanted to fight Rory, I mean, we'd probably do it.
Mm-hmm.
If Rory
That's a
wanted to
great
do
fight.
it, that would be a great super fight.
But Mike versus Benson is, I mean, you're talking. That's a. I
mean,
don't
listen,
care
Benson,
where you're at.
Benson
in the
Henderson
world.
won the UFC belt. He won the WC belt. He beat both my Strikeforce champions. I mean, he's won it all.
Yeah.
This
He's
guy
done
has
everything.
won
He's
it all.
amazing.
Yeah, and Chandler is like that young up and coming stud. That,
How old is
is
Chandler
making a
now?
name. I want to say he's like in his mid-20s or maybe late 20s.
Yeah, 26, 27. Is that right, Ev?
Chandler's 30.
Okay, he's 30.
Looks
But
good.
man, he looks. He's still just a rock.
No, yeah, now's his time, especially when he fights a guy like Ben. That's
Yeah.
a fight.
I mean, he had one of the most spectacular knockouts I've seen in person against Pitbull's brother.
Pitbull, yeah, and then got on the cage and pointed at his brother.
Yeah, that was crazy.
How's our
It was
boys?
intense.
How's Pitbull's leg? Was it a bad break?
Yeah, it's cracked. It's broken.
That was a bummer, man, because
yeah, it was a bummer.
it's the main event. You got Ben in. We're hoping he fully redeems himself at 55, and Ben was a little hesitant. It's not the Ben we're used to seeing. I think he's still trying to get comfort in the Bellator cage, and then
yeah, it just happened.
he was. And I had Ben actually. He was down on the cards, especially when that happened. It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, man, anything can happen in these things, and it's just unfortunate. But but the nice thing is the big fight's teed up. This is the fight everybody wanted to see.
Yeah, the
Right?
good thing is I was like, at least we get Chandler.
Yeah, now you get
Yes,
Chandler
yes,
Benson,
yes.
and you're talking about the Bellator champion, and you guy that's Benson's won every belt out there, and to me, this is going to be I think it's going to be quite a war.
It's a tough fight for Ben, man. It's a tough fight. What else you got?
All right, news just broke that Joe Silva will be leaving the UFC by year's end. What are your thoughts? And Scott, are you going to try to lure him to Bellator?
Well, you know what? We have a great matchmaker here already, but I'm surprised. I mean, to me, it's like, who's going to fill that spot?
Sean Shelby, I guess, can
So
do
Sean's
all of
gonna
it.
do
now.
all of it.
Sean's gonna do all of it.
Sean's going to have
Yeah,
no
they're
life.
considering backfilling that position, backfilling Sean Shelby's position, and he would take Joe Silva's, which is lightweight and everything up.
Yeah, because the way it works for listeners, so Joe Silva would do 155 and up matchups, and Sean Shelby would deal with 155 and under matchups, and then the big fights, Dana and the Fertitas would usually make the decision.
Right.
Do you guys operate the same way?
Yeah, I mean, our matching is by committee, and we sit down with Rich and a couple guys, and we kind of map it out.
And Rich is, I mean,
Rich
crazy
is.
smart. I mean,
Yeah,
he knows the game inside and out.
He's fantastic, and he's got a great relationship with all the camps, and he's been a solid player for Bellator and for Strikeforce before.
Yeah.
And then, but the big fights, like you said, the top fights that fight on the TV card, especially the 1 and 2 slot, we all sit down and say, hey, who is going to be the guys that we want to fight on the TV slots, and the Chandler versus Benson, that's a no-brainer. I mean, it's like
some of the stuff
hey.
is self-evident. It's kind of crying out.
Yeah,
for
that's
it.
right.
Is there any kind of a matchup in history that you are just sad that you can never make it happen?
Oh wow, I'm sure there is.
Sad.
I mean,
That was literally word for word the next fan question.
Oh, that's good.
yeah, boy. I tell you,
What about Fedor?
Fedor. The biggest shock about Fedor's career was that first loss he had against Fabricio Verdum
When he
in
got caught.
Strikeforce. I mean, I saw Fabricio at the Bellator fight over the weekend, and I said, "Hey, we had a nice chat, talking about the old times." And
I love that guy.
Yeah, he's such a great guy. And the conversation I had with Fabricio, this is 2 nights before the fight with Fedor, and he goes, "I need to renegotiate my contract," So I said, well, let's go have dinner and let's talk about it, right? So he shows up. I am not kidding, with like 20 people at this fine dining steakhouse. I'm like, I got to feed all these people? Let's pay this guy more money to fight Fedor?
Yeah.
So we're sitting there.
This is two nights
before the fight, right? And,
Hell of a time to renegotiate.
And granted, he didn't, he probably deserved more money anyway because, going on to win and
it's tough,
whatever.
right? Yeah.
So we're sitting there talking and he's saying to me, well, okay, because Fedor's Fedor, and he was basically saying to me like, okay, I know I'm going to lose this fight. And so when, please, can you do anything for me on this and that?
Yeah.
That's how he was negotiating with me, right? Because Fedor was this iconic.
I think everyone was that way. That time at Fedor was like he walked in and was like, oh my god.
Yeah. Until he dove into his guard.
Yeah, and then when they caught him, right, I was like, oh, that was like one of the most shocking experiences. Everybody just stood there like, did he just lose? Like,
it felt like the world froze.
Yeah, I would say you're right.
What is going on?
That was one of the most shocking fights. But like if you look at, and I'm not answering his question exactly the way he was asking, but when you talk about the trilogy of fights between like Gilbert and Josh, and then you talk about Frank versus Kung, let me tell you, that's the loudest I've ever heard in an arena.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, we had 16,000 people. Damn. Half the arena was for Frank and half was for Kung.
Kung was a big deal, man.
Big deal.
Kung was a huge deal.
Kung made his name in kickboxing.
Kickboxing and Sancho, which is a different style of fighting.
Sancho.
Yeah.
So he has a huge Asian following.
Big.
Yeah.
And the Bay Area has a bunch of Asian people, right?
Yes.
So we're all worked out.
Big.
And so that fight was like an epic battle for the Bay Area. It was just, I mean, I think we broke the $1 million mark a couple times, and that was one of the fights we did, like $1.2 million gate. And so, to me, it's like I look back at the history of things that we've accomplished, and man, we've accomplished some great things in the past. So things that you're really proud of, and historical moments in the sport. And then the tournament, to me, that was really like something I was really wanting to do. And I went to Showtime and I said, hey, I really want to do this tournament. I said, we got Alistair, we got Fabricio, we got Fedor, we got Arlovsky, Josh Barnett. We had the baddest tournament. And then the way it rolled out, it just rolled out slow. People got hurt. It was just,
Everyone was getting hurt.
Yeah, it was just didn't work out. But the
remember,
launch
DC was a
tournament,
replacement.
Yeah,
DC was a
DC
replacement.
Was not the first. He was the second.
I love these things. I always forget these.
He was
DC
the second replacement.
Talk about fate.
Damn.
DC was a replacement.
Yeah, he was the second alternate.
And went in and won it.
Yeah.
Mollywopped the floor with Barnett.
Yeah, I remember picking him up. I was like, how
How
picking
crazy
him
is
up like
that, man?
But that tournament in New Jersey, when it launched, I was like, man, this is something I'm going to be really proud of. So a lot of great moments there, but I'm telling you, we're going to create a lot of great moments here at Bellator.
Do you have? We'll get back to fan question. I got one for you, Scott. I was really close close with Kimbo. Do you have any good Kimbo stories that people haven't heard?
Boy, I tell you, man, it's just hanging out with that guy was just, like he was like a rock star. Honestly, it's the closest you could. Everywhere we went, hey Kimbo, and I didn't realize it. Like when he came back to fighting, I was like, is this guy going to be popular?
Yeah.
Or I didn't know. And so we were in St. Louis, and man, he just got mobbed everywhere he went. It can remind me of like Bob Sapp in Japan. He was getting mobbed.
I think the thing that always bothered me about Kimbo, I talked to his son about this a little bit, is no one ever really told his story. Like, you talk about just hanging out with Kimbo. He was like the nicest, most down-to-earth, humble guy. You want to talk about judging a book by a cover, you just can't.
Yeah.
Like, he was just a family guy, was feeding,
That's what he
feeding
told
his
me.
family.
He said, hey, she's the boss. Talking to his wife. She's the boss.
Mother of 6.
Yeah, she's the boss, and he kept saying, I'll go do my thing, but she's the boss, and a lot of people don't realize he went to University of Miami, right? He was a
Football
He's a
player.
football player, and then the hurricane.
The hurricane
things,
hit,
yeah.
kind of changed his life, but smart guy,
Very smart guy.
But when it came time to do his thing, he did his thing. I mean, he was like this, just kind of, was he the greatest fighter? We all know the answer to that. But really, it's like everybody gravitated towards him.
I think he transcended fighting.
Yeah,
I think that
he was pop culture.
And not only that, he also was somebody who you pointed to of what was possible.
Mm-hmm.
He came from not such good circumstances, and here's this guy who literally fought his way out of the ghetto.
From backyards in Dade
Yeah.
County, Miami. And
In his
think about
backyard.
it, he was the first. Really, I mean, YouTube should be paying his family royalties
100%.
He
because
should have got stock in that company.
For real,
100%.
because remember, YouTube at the time wasn't anything.
That's right.
And then they started uploading these Kimbo Slice videos. I remember my mom, my aunts would like, look at this is nuts.
Fighting is funny that way, especially MMA. And I think this is new. And boxing, of course, was always that way. But for men, especially, this isn't my idea. This an author was talking about this. Like pornography, fighting two men with their shirts off, muscular, and for that matter now women, but especially kicking, punching, grabbing. There are triggers. There are primordial triggers that seem to get you, and I've seen it with men who've never seen it before, and their first reaction is, ooh, that's violent, I don't like that. But then they get drawn in. And once you inoculate yourself to sort of what initially is the shock of the actual violence of it, it is something you never really get tired of watching.
Yeah, and the thing about it, there's no geographical boundaries for fighting. Like there's baseball,
Everyone
or
understands
football.
it. Yeah.
It's
try
primordial.
NFL in Thailand or Cambodia. It
Good
doesn't-
luck.
you know.
Yeah, good
It's
luck.
sport
Go
in
have
its
the
raw
Chiefs play the
form.
Broncos in Thailand. Let me know how that game
or
goes.
playing baseball in Germany, or
It's not happening.
It doesn't matter.
It's what
to
we've
them,
evolved to
It's-
do.
Yeah.
But fighting, it's worldwide. Everybody
We all
gets
get it.
Yeah.
We all get it.
Especially without weapons, because that's how we started. That's our DNA.
Yeah.
Cavemen, before we learned how to use tools, probably went at each other with their bare hands. And Joe Rogan said it one time. He goes, "It's as close as you can watch two men try to kill each other with their bare hands. It's as close as you can."
That's why the ref is there.
Yeah.
What else you got, Ev?
All right, next one. What are the rules to success in business that you've learned along the way?
Good question.
It's really, like I said, we're in a people business, and you better have good relationship, be able to, to like with you certain things might trigger you, and you better be able to have that sensory acuity to know
Yeah.
what makes you work, makes you doesn't work,
Yep.
and you're going to be different. And so to me, it's really about, just developing that relationship with the athlete, and something I think we've been really good at.
What about with your employees? Same thing. You make good employees. Is that the idea?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's we're a team.
Yeah.
We're and even in Strikeforce, it was a small team. I used to call them SEAL Team 6. It's like we're not a big team, but we've done some amazing things.
Productive.
And same thing with Bellator. It's like I got a great team behind me, and Viacom has been an unbelievable media partner and ownership, right? So to me, it's like you put all those elements together, and look what we've accomplished in 18 months to 2 years. It's pretty amazing.
And I think people in your position, they don't realize how big of a deal that is, because with fighters and personalities, you don't become a fighter and athlete and not you're a sensitive person.
Yeah.
You really are. That's what makes a great athlete or a great fighter. They're usually pretty sensitive. So if you have a head figure who talks down to you or diminishes you, it doesn't go a long way. They don't respond to it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Sure. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I think that's been something that, like I said, I'm a fan. Like when these guys fight, I have a lot of respect for them. As a martial artist, they're stepping into the cage, and I'm watching this as a fan fully enjoying the fights. I mean, I'm watching
And
the fans.
understanding what it took to get there. At
Yeah,
least
I mean,
least
to
having
me,
to work and
it's
understand.
their time. This is
Yeah.
about them. You know, our platform allows a fighter to be the show.
Have you had any interaction with Sumner Redstone? He's the owner of Firecom. No. He's a legendary figure.
I've heard
incredible
some of the stories.
Do you have you ever and there's a million of these questions, so I'll just throw it out there and then we'll get back to you. We only got a couple more than we chat here, Scott. But have you ever even thought about changing the name from Bellator to make, because Strikeforce we get, obviously UFC, it's almost like NFL. Has there ever been any consideration of changing the name?
You know what?
I know that's always Rogan's biggest problem.
Yeah,
he's like, why doesn't he change the name? I'm like, I don't know him.
You know what? I'll tell you, and I'll be honest. I felt the same way when I first came in.
You're a smart guy. That's why I'm asking you.
But we went a couple routes, but they had some trademark issues and things like that. But at the end of the day, this name is being built, is building, and especially internationally, it's accepted and it's building and it's growing. So I think at this point, it's going to
It'll find its way.
Yeah, it'll find its way.
Yeah.
What else you got, Ed? Let's do two more and get this man out of here.
All right. Would Bellator ever make a Reebok type of a deal?
You know what?
You want me to answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
No. We go ahead, though.
Okay, next.
What else you got?
Good answer.
I'll help
Good
you
answer,
out there.
Scott. I mean, Scott/Brendan.
Yeah.
Simplicity says it all.
Yeah.
Where do you see MMA in 5 to 10 years? And do you think a union is necessary for a non-monopoly to survive?
I'm not sure. I think association is much more realistic, and I think a union is going to be tough because, like I said, it's an individual sport, and I think they have a lot of hurdles. But I think, listen, if you treat your fighters well, then you'll be okay without the union, right? And so if the fighters feel like they're being treated fairly, paid fairly, fight on time, and you just overall just a good employer, you'll be fine. And
in the sport in 5 to 10 years, you see, I mean, obviously the international growth. I think the biggest issue is going to be keeping the sport to grow in America. I think that's going to be the biggest thing.
I think that that is really based on building the next stars of the
yes,
sport.
correct.
Stars drive the sport,
correct.
And so to me, it's going to be us to build the next guys, and I think that we're really good at that, and we're going to continue doing that.
I agree. Well, Scott, we can't thank you enough, man. We know you're busy, and we love what you do here. So
thank you.
Awesome. We're excited when you guys were coming on the show, man.
Good. Same here, man. Happy to be here.
Thanks for coming
Sir.
out.
Scott
guys.
Coker, everybody.
Scott Coker.
Man, Scott Coker, beast.
He's a beast.
When's the last time you heard Scott Coker do an interview that long, Ev?
On the Fighter and a Kid.
Other than us, the 7th of never. That's never out.
7th of never.
There you go.
1st of never. I was a little reserved. I love Scott. He's an outgoing guy, but it's different when you bring me in studio because, he's the president of the company.
Yeah.
So sometimes it can be reserved. You never know. Dude, he was an open book.
Yeah.
I thought he was great. The one thing I'm curious on, and I didn't want to, I don't know the ins and outs, so I didn't want to get too much into it, but with the UFC hiring USADA, because remember, the state and the government, a government official didn't hire USADA for the UFC. Dana White and the suits at B hired USADA to regulate PEDs in the sport in the UFC.
Right.
So this is what is Nowitzki, who's the head guy who you're talking about, who I call the golden snitch, the ultimate snitch.
Yep.
Is Nowitzki the golden snitch? Is he required to report, like by law, to the commissions? So let's say John Jones fight in Vegas, for instance, UFC 200. Was he required by law to report his findings to the Nevada Commission, or does he just do it under good faith, or does he go to the UFC and go, all right, listen, this is what's going on with John?
Yeah, because
how's it work?
Well, because if the commission was doing the testing, now that
they have no vested interest.
Now that
in it.
USADA's involved,
which is a third party,
do their testing? Like so does USADA do the testing for the commission now?
Yes. Well,
I
think
know what I'm saying?
I know.
Because I think
the
that they hired
fans will
Nowitzki.
know. There's people listening to this, and our fans are smart as shit on this stuff. They're gonna know
hit us to this. Let us know.
So my question is for you guys who are balls deep in PD testing and the golden snitch Nowitzki, who I actually like. I'm just trying to be funny with the golden snitch stuff because he's the ultimate snitch. Think about it. He ruins people's careers. But the ultimate snitch, ask Barry Bonds. But he is he required by law to report to that commission where that fighter is fighting? Because remember, it's 365 days a year. So let's say Mark Hunt, who has no fight scheduled, he's still under UFC contract, they go out and test Mark Hunt, and there's nothing scheduled. Who's report that to?
Right.
Not the commission, or report Dana White. Well, Dana White, they're a private company, correct?
But I feel like
so
Dana-
Dana White doesn't have to release that information.
Right. And I also feel like Dana,
Because if I'm Dana, and let's say, well, my biggest star, let's say Conor McGregor, out of testing competition, test positive for Molly and fucking unicorn piss, whatever, some weird shit we don't know about. And he doesn't have a fight coming up, I'm not releasing that information.
no, sir. Not
Weird,
with my
right?
golden pony.
No.
No.
Is there any law? Is there any sanctioned body that goes, what we release, we also release to the public? You know what I'm saying? Like when you hire USADA, does it come with a little guarantee? Listen, we do work for you, but if in order for us to work for you, we have the obligation to release this information.
Yeah,
to
they
the
have
public.
to have their own autonomy. They have to be somewhat independent. They would have to be.
I don't know,
Right?
man.
Because they're able to ruin. I mean, look, think about the John Jones and the Daniel Cormier. Think about the money that was riding on that fight and all the tickets that were sold already. And so Dana White there was zero interest in. My God, it was a huge.
I wonder how it works, and I'm not saying the UFC is hiding information, any of that.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works.
My guess is
because remember,
yeah.
I retired before USADA got involved.
Yeah.
I was tested through the Gazoo from the commissions, and but before.
It's a really good question.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah,
so when
we
he was
need-
saying that, I'm like, I don't know if it works like that. Scott might be right, and if anyone knows, I mean, you're talking about the guy who's,
Yeah. Yeah.
in left field over there, while Dana's in right field, so they're kind of
It's true.
in cahoots when it comes to that.
It'll be an interesting. I'm really curious about that.
Weird, right?
Yeah, that'll be a very interesting answer because I'm really curious about that because I know that they said the Fertittas and Dan, they were like, look, enough is enough. I'm so sick of this shit. I'm sick of the commission
was a
catching
business
things.
move.
I want to catch
That was
it
a
before.
business move,
Right, but
yeah.
I want to catch it before because I'm losing money on these.
Well, because we're trying to sell this to a
Sure.
legit for $4 billion.
Yeah, and fights were getting spoiled because it was
They're
like
getting more spoiled
we
now.
need a real deterrence.
They're getting more spoiled now.
They are. I mean,
Yeah.
because now they're testing for when you've got instrumentation that's that sensitive.
Well, when you're talking about Nate Diaz who's smoking after the fight, and he may be, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm all about testing. Let's relax.
My feeling also was that Dana and the commission did not get along, and Dana and the commission did not talk, and Dana and the commission, because he's been very vocal about kind of, when certain refs that he doesn't like, and that's not his choice, but he can't stand that guy and this, that, and the other.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Again, you think fucking Roger Goodell likes all the
you're
refs?
you're at the mercy of the commission to an extent. When
not
you're in that
anymore.
state.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah.
Dana goes, nah, I'm gonna hire my own.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
Smart business move.
All right.
What do you got, Ev? Let's go current events with Ev in the body, the beer
Current
cup.
events.
I'm not mad at those original Vans you got there, Ev.
Thanks, bud.
You know, those are the hottest shoes in the street. You know, yesterday I went to, I actually called PacSun because they dropped the collab Vans with Homeboy who does some of the Yeezy and Bieber clothes. They just dropped it unannounced. Sold out in about 10 minutes. PacSun.
Damn.
Why the fuck does PacSun have these? What can you do? Do you know what I'm talking about,
idea.
Kay? You'd be the only person who knows what the fuck I'm
know,
talking
oh my
about.
gosh,
Even
it is.
Jay went up. Even my brother went up to Park Meadows in Denver. Fear of God Vans collab. If anyone has a size 13, hit your boy up. What do you got, Ev?
All right, first thing we should talk about. Your boy Tim Tebow had his MLB tryouts yesterday. A shitload of teams showed up. I saw a video of Tebow jack a 230-foot home run, something like that, maybe even more than that.
And this is off
Just
two professional pitchers too. Retired, but
hammering balls out of the park.
Yeah, he did well.
I've seen it. The media range has been from that was a waste of time, he sucks,
That's
to
Tim.
he was much better than expected. Total MLB potential.
that's Tim. You could Babe Ruth could come out from the dead, take form in Tim Tebow's body, and be like, he just doesn't have it.
Yeah.
It's just that's the media with Tim.
Yeah.
He's so polarizing. It's either half right, half wrong. Hate him, love him. That's why he's such a big figure. But as long as I've known Tim, he's talked about baseball and his passion for baseball. So when I hear the media go, it's a publicity stunt, he's doing this for fame, you guys are so off. It's not even funny. You guys have covered this young man, this talent, for how many years? You guys have interviewed him for how many times? You don't think Tim has offers to do insane things that you guys don't even know about? You're talking movie roles. You're talking about TV deals. You're talking about
What
hosting,
is that? I can't
all that
stand
stuff.
when people want to see somebody like him fail.
Well,
It's so
the thing
weird to me.
is, so he has all these offers, and Tim doesn't want the attention. Tim's number one goal in life is to give back and help people.
Right.
So if he wanted to get more famous, he can do it. There's way bigger offers than fucking doing a tryout for 30 scouts.
Yeah.
Trust me, he has way bigger offers. So when I hear guys say this, it's infuriating.
Yeah.
It's not publicity stunt. Also, he's with CAA. I'm with CAA. CAA Sports, the head of CAA Sports, had to come out and go, listen, I'm one of the biggest guys in the game.
And he's a huge baseball fan.
Huge, and he goes, this is not publicity stunt. If anyone knows Tim, that he's been thinking about doing this for a very, very long time. So, and also the kid can play.
Yeah.
A lot of the scouts, most of the scouts said he could play.
Yeah.
There's a couple haters, obviously, but you're batshit crazy if you don't think the a minor league team's going to sign him. I guarantee they do. And also baseball. Besides Trout and fucking homeboy, what's his name? Who's the other? Harper.
Harper, yeah,
Besides
Bryce
Bryce Harper and
nobody
Trout.
has a lot of.
Baseball is like watching paint dry right now. It fucking sucks. If Martin Lawrence wanted to play baseball, you should probably sign him for ratings. You know what I'm saying? Little lone fucking Tim Tebow, who's a legit baseball player.
Yeah.
Now, is he Mike Trout? No. He's fucking giving it a go. Well, you silly fucks are critiquing him on your shows to get ratings.
Right.
Idiots.
Give him a shot.
Not only give him a
Give him
shot, but they said his speed is above average. His arm is above average. He went 8 for I think 22 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And he hasn't played in how long?
Since high school?
And also he just happens to be one of the top 3 best college football players of all time, who's focused. Oh, and he also played professional football, won the AFC West with the Denver Broncos. And you don't think he could mosey on over to the minor leagues? You don't think Tampa fucking Bay, the Devil Rays, could use a little pick me up over there in Tampa? They have 7 tickets.
I'm going to that game. I'll go to
There's
watch
7 ticket holders.
Everybody's going to go watch that game. Come on.
If Tim Tebow signed with any team right now, it'd be A, the number 1 selling jersey, B, the number 1 most watched game on TV. What are you talking
makes
about?
economic sense.
What are you talking about? The UFC signed fucking CM Punk. This guy can actually fucking
UFC
play.
would sign Tim Tebow in a heartbeat.
They sure as fuck would, and I would not let him do it. That'd be the
He's too
one
good
time I
looking.
might
He's
go to
too good
prison.
looking. I don't want that face.
Cody Garbrandt says, huh? Seen him? Or how about Alan Joban, huh?
Yeah. Tim, I got Tim
No.
above those guys. Hey,
bro.
Hey, bro.
You know I love Tim like a brother, but if you think Tim Tebow is better looking than Cody Garbrandt and Alan Joban,
Cody's a little too small. He's 135.
what about Joban?
Joban's got something going on.
But
you know what?
Bitch, he's on Versace.
Yeah, you know what though?
No. Versace.
Hey, look at
Tim's with Adidas.
I got Tim. I got him by a nose hair.
Because he's bigger. You're
He's
obsessed with
just such
size.
a good-looking guy.
No, he's good.
The symmetry to his face.
Alan fucking
the fuck
Joban
outta
with
here,
Versace.
Tebow and the symmetry of that face.
I loved
especially
him like a
when
brother.
I saw him at
He's
the awards,
family.
he had that haircut and he had the
No, he has
had
great
that
hair.
suit on. I was like, God,
Bro,
this guy's as good looking as
you haven't
good
seen
as
Alan
he gets.
Joban enough.
Oh, I've seen him.
He's on the. He's.
I've never seen Joe
He's
Bannon.
in downtown New York on Versace.
Never seen him in person.
Oh, he's
so.
beautiful.
It's like staring at the sun. Like he's too good looking.
His skin is the color of this fucking
Gotta meet Joe
kombucha
Ben. I
bottle.
gotta meet Joe Ben.
Oh man, great guy. We should get him on the show.
Let's get him on the show. The fuck, man.
Hey,
We
Cody
get him, no
Garbrandt's
problem.
right up there, man. And look at his girl.
Girls love Cody.
Fucking little. I mean, he's Mike Tyson
I
as a
know
white
several
guy.
women who love him. In their 30s who are
Cody
like, I'm
Garbrandt?
obsessed. Yes.
Fuck yes.
Yeah, he's a cute.
Good guy, knockout artist.
Yeah.
Big old angry Ohio piece.
How do you?
That's what
know?
I've heard.
Really?
That's what they say around Ohio.
I believe it.
Yeah, they call him the Ohio 1-2.
They call him the Ohio Peace.
They'll call him the.
They call him the Ohio Peace.
They call it the Louisville Slugger.
The Ohio Hey-O. It's the Ohio Hey-O. Well, when he pulls it out, Hey-O. Too much. Hey-O is Ohio for that's too much.
No, girls say I'm going yard.
He looks like the
What-
letter
what's
L.
going
He looks
yard
like the
mean?
letter L.
I'm going yard. What are
Yeah.
you doing? I'm sucking his dick.
The way to that. The way to that.
Going
thing,
yard's a baseball term.
He looks like the letter L. The way to that thing. It doesn't go straight up. It's got some. It's too much heft for it to stand straight up. 10 hut. When you extend that. Far
This is
out.
my impression.
Diving board.
This is my impression of Cody when it's a hard on.
Wait.
Oh God. He passes out because
because
all
all the
the
blood.
blood rushes his dick.
Yeah, and it happens that fast.
Yeah, his girl comes in lingerie and he's like, oh my God.
Give him a
And
second.
I'm
Give him
back.
a second. Give him a second.
And
Smell like
I'm
sauce.
back.
You okay? I'm back.
Goes to a strip club, just, rain. Ah!
He'll be back. He'll be back. Give him a second.
Yeah,
Give him a
oh,
second.
God, what happened?
He has to have a friend who's.
What happened?
He's not dead. He's fine. Give him a second. Here he is.
Valentine's Day, that dude's passing out. Red panty night?
Oh, yeah.
Cody can pass out.
Tenting.
Only way you can knock
Just
his ass
tenting
out.
them jeans. Tenting
Only
them
way
jeans.
he's losing.
Got a fucking tent, your Levi's? Hey, he should be sponsored by Tents.
Pool party, hot chicken. Ah!
Hey, there he is.
There he is.
That's funny.
That's how
He
does it.
dies. He actually dies.
No, all the blood
He
rushes
dies.
to there.
Yeah, he
and
dies
so-
for a second and comes back. Ready?
Dude, check out that girl.
He'll be back. Hold on. There it is. Yeah, there he is.
All right, what do you got?
I can't wait.
I-
I can't wait for all the replies from that or tweets that Cody's gonna get about how the fighter and the kid spent 10 minutes talking about your dick.
I never get tired. I never get tired of those bits. Just keep beating it down.
All I'm saying is if this is fucking America's Top Model and they're walking down the runway, I got Joban 1.
Yep.
I got Cody 2 and Tim 3.
Where's Rockhold at?
By the way, sir,
Rockhold's not on my top 3 in there.
is that right?
Well, it's a good segue into our
I got
next
Tebow
current
1,
event.
Joban 2, Rockhold very close 3. I mean, we're talking about swim times in the Olympics. We're talking about like somebody didn't trim their fingernails
It's close.
and won. You understand? We're
close.
talking about it's a tight pack and
Don't say tight pack. What else
That's
you
the
got?
first thing I
Yeah.
thought. He was like,
That's a tight
interesting
pack.
choice of words.
What else you got, Ev?
Well, before we move to the next current event, I meant a 430-foot home run. I think I said a 230-foot home run.
Yeah.
So before you all baseball purists attack me, I don't watch the sport. Calm down.
Yeah.
Next thing. It is rumored, and by rumored I mean it's basically happening.
it's true.
Luke Rockhold and Demi Lovato, they're dating.
I'm a fan. I'm a
like
fan of
that.
her.
And I
She
like
also
that.
trains, She does jiu-jitsu and stuff and hits mitts.
They met at Unbreakable Gym at Glazer's Gym.
There you go. Yeah.
Damn.
She is so talented.
She can sing. her
Luke, you better lock that up, son.
Yep.
I don't care if you win 6 belts. You
Yep.
ain't going to see that singer money.
Well, Luke is doing
Go ahead
a
and
lot.
lock it up.
Luke is now modeling.
Lock it up.
Just signed a Tom Ford contract.
Is that announced?
I
Is that
believe so.
official?
I don't know, but you heard it here first.
I don't know if you wanted that out
I
there.
think it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, why
we'll
wouldn't it
do
be?
a quick Google
It's a big
search
deal.
here, figure that out.
Yeah.
Rockhold, Tom Ford.
Yeah.
Brian just completely made this up. I see. I just Googled Luke Rockhold, Tom Ford, and I got absolutely nothing pairing the two.
Might want to edit that out then.
Why would you do that?
Yeah. Let's go. Let's go ahead.
We'll just edit that. It's kind of funny, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the end of the world, right? What do you mean I want that out there?
It's Tom Ford. It's not a big deal.
Yeah,
It's modeling. I mean,
Yeah.
we
It's
don't-
fine.
We don't need to edit
Might
that.
It's fine.
Might be good.
What do you got? Definitely not good, but what do you got, Ev?
So yeah, Rockhold, Tom Ford. God damn it, Rockhold, Lovato. Right after the CAA or the WME UFC merger, feel like we might see a lot more of these fighter celebrity relationships happening because they're just going to be
makes
put
sense.
together in the same room a lot more
Yeah,
often.
that's
Girls
true.
like fighters.
You're gonna see a lot of like you said, celebrities mixed with the athletes, not there with WME, which is a huge entertainment organization. It should be interesting, man.
We shall see. Next current event, Chris Brown decided to hole up in his house for a good, basically full 24 hours or so, while cops were outside his house with a warrant for his arrest, supposedly for beating on another girl. Another domestic violence case.
This is what I've heard, and I only have it in patches here because it was on Twitter. People respond on Twitter. So it's in the middle of the day, his house in Tarzana. Is that close to Calabasas? Yep. He's in Tarzana. Ray J's over there. There's other girls there. Then there's a guy who was invited, and he brought 2 girls. And one of the 2 girls, a white girl, I guess he was like, I don't know them. They need to leave. And she started freaking out. And that's when she started making these claims. And that's even what the people in the house are saying, too. Now, I don't have all the details. I heard the Chris Brown.
I can believe stuff like that. It happens to celebrities all the time.
All the time. Did you see recently that one guy, I forget who it is, posted his girl. It's a celebrity. It might be a celebrity or a politician. I forget who it is. But his girl was he's filming it from his bedroom. She's hitting herself. Say, I'm gonna tell everyone you beat me, and she's like hitting herself.
Jesus
and he's like,
Christ.
cool. And then released the video. Was like, this is what I deal with.
Oh, I believe it. I know somebody who got conned in, a famous actor got conned into having the girl. The girl said, let's see her ass. He mooned her. He and his buddy mooned her, 2 famous actors. And she sued for sexual harassment and all the stuff. And they ended up paying $100,000 out of pocket
For mooning?
to keep them. It's just like to make it go away.
I mean, mooning's not too bad. We're talking about domestic
It
violence.
doesn't
it's
matter.
a way bigger
What I'm
deal.
saying is you can get hustled into bullshit. There are people out there that are preying on you. And you're warned of that.
Yeah, so Brown is being accused of threatening this girl
With a gun,
with
right?
a gun at his house, and he was already released from jail on a $250,000 bond. I don't know.
It sounds
like
like
it's
it
another
sounds like
in a
it'll go
laundry
away.
list
if
of
he's got
problems.
You know what the
warrants.
problem is his track record so
His track record's
shitty.
shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he like has a reoccurring theme here.
He's bipolar,
so talented,
I guess,
man.
and he suffers from depression and all kinds
Is
of
that
stuff.
for sure? He's
Yeah.
bipolar. I've never heard that.
Yeah, that is.
Man, poor
And he
guy.
has an addiction.
He's
Yeah,
so-
he was
talented.
he was like officially publicly diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
and he also
And manic depressive beat.
yeah, and he was in rehab too.
Oh yeah,
For what though? For
being awesome,
being awesome.
for
Yeah.
dancing.
Good looking dude, man, a talented dude.
Oh my god, he might be the most talented guy in the world right now, as far as as far as that dancing,
His ability to
singing.
dance, sing. Yeah, he's something
My
else.
god, he has some hits too. My word, chicks dig that guy.
Good looking guy, man. You don't get
Talented.
You don't get much
Paint his ass off too.
What's that?
He paint his ass off too.
Really?
Oh
You
yeah.
can paint too?
Oh, like a motherfucker.
Damn.
Also, fucking punch your eyes black if you're a girl. Ask Rihanna. What else you got,
Punch
F?
your eyes black.
This is a hell of a headline. Kim Jong-un executes vice premier for not sitting up straight with anti-aircraft guns. That's how he executed people.
Yeah, he's a nice
He
guy.
executed who?
He executed his vice premier of education, I believe, with an anti-aircraft gun because he was sitting in a disrespectful position. Basically,
He's
I
basically
don't-
sitting like I am.
yeah, your shitty posture, you're dead.
What? No, I have a hunchback. My brother'd be fucked. My brother has like a hump, like kind of like a camel from sitting on the thing.
Kill him!
Yo, what? No!
Kill him
It's
with
because
huge
computers. I don't care.
Kill him with
Ka-doom.
huge guns! Kill him with huge guns!
God damn it.
Yeah, he's a good
Boy,
guy.
I bet everyone else's posture just on point when that bitch comes by.
Oh,
from there.
that fucking. By the way, that country is run like. There's no question. It's the last.
Ooh,
vestige
let's
of
do a live
monarchy.
finding the kid from North Korea.
Yeah, it's a monarchy. It's he kills entire families.
But I
He's-
tell you what, if there's one way to go, it's by that giant fucking gun. You're not gonna feel anything.
in Korea, in those.
No, come on.
In North Korea, if you didn't have loyalty to the original founder, who was Kim Jong Il's father, who was a
dead.
general.
You dead.
If you weren't loyal to him, if you were not in favor, if you were on the other side of the war, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I've seen the
the
interview.
generations of your family do not live close
Oh,
to
yeah.
Pyongyang.
Oh, yeah.
The generations of your family live in the shittier circles of. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Not doing well there.
That is
Yeah.
hell on
Doing
earth. Those.
Just taking out senior, like high-ranking government officials. Can you imagine, like, Obama just executing like fucking Joe Biden for
The labor
bad posture?
the labor
That's
camps.
insane.
I
The
need to see. I
prisons-
need to see a picture on how bad his posture is. Do we have it?
Oh
Probably
come
not.
on, man! Pictures aren't getting out of
Like,
North
is he
Korea.
like this?
The labor
That would piss me
camps-
off too. I'm
yeah.
not gonna kill him, but that pissed me off.
The labor camps and where at one point they had these. They said we got to keep everybody together, and they looped wire through their collarbones and attached everybody by their collarbones.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a real good place. Let me tell you, tyranny.
What else you
Tyranny.
got, Ev?
That's it for currents, my man.
Jesus, good current events. Jesus
Good Lord.
Christ. North Korea, come on down.
Time for dropping knowledge with Bryan Callen.
Next fight on UFC Fight Pass, North Korea.
North Korea tries to
Fight Pass only. It's getting
Donald
hot.
Trump against North Korea.
Make sure when you lose, you don't sulk, because they'll kill you.
They kill you. Hey,
Speaking of, we're doing a fight companion this Saturday at noon for UFC on Fight Pass in Bangladesh.
In Bangladesh.
Barnett versus Arlovsky.
That's right,
With
ladies
Joe
and
Rogan,
gentlemen.
myself, Brian Callen.
That's right,
That's
we're
a true
excited.
story. That's a true story.
True fucking
That
story.
fight's actually in Germany, I think, right? Is it Germany or
It's in
Hamburg,
Hamburg.
Germany.
Hamburg?
Hamburg, Germany, where the beer runs thick
Mm-hmm.
and the cheese tastes strong and the Germans
They
had
got rid of my
broad
favorite
chests.
cheese at fucking Whole Foods. Mm-hmm. Oh, bro, before you do your drop of knowledge, I got some fucking knowledge for you. And I asked you to do it as a current event, Evan. They're shutting down my favorite ride at Disneyland.
Shit. My bad, yeah.
Tower of Doom is done.
Huh?
Tower of Terror.
I've been in the Tower of Terror. Waited about 23 hours in that line, and then
God, it's my favorite ride.
It was fun.
They're revamping it to Gardens of the Galaxy. It's gonna have like the same drop as me Gardens of the Galaxy. It's fucking lame.
Boo this man who
God
made that
damn
decision.
it. Does ISIS own Disney now? God damn it.
God dang it.
It could be worse though. You could be shot in the face or in bad posture.
You're right, buddy.
It's not the world I live in though. I live in a world where the Tower of Terror ruins my day if
By
it's
an
shut down.
anti-aircraft
But I
gun.
think it ends in next year, right? I'm fucking going this year. My little man's too young to take to Disneyland. Like I hate when parents bring like 4 and 5 months old to Disneyland. They don't know what the fuck is going on. It's a long day in the sun. You got fucking sticky bun shit all over your fingers.
Yep.
So I'm gonna have him with his grandma. Me and my girl go to Disneyland. That place is fucking magical, man. Kay goes like every other day. It's a little weird.
You love
Let's
it.
be.
You go too often.
You
By the
go
way,
too often.
Keely's looking-
It kind of creeps me out.
Keely's looking very cute. Sorry to be creepy.
Oh.
You look good.
That's the worst
You look
word.
pretty, though.
That's
Well, you look
that's
pretty.
a terrible
You look
word.
sexy.
I know what you mean by that, but I just.
No, but
Cute's
you
bad.
look pretty.
You know,
It's not a bunny, an Easter bunny.
Yeah.
Nothing like
No,
that.
but you look good. You
Yeah,
look.
the-
You look.
I'm trying to think what that is for a guy. When someone says cute, it's not good.
She looks hot, I guess. What I'm trying to say.
Yeah, 49.
Well, that's why I said cute, because it was less creepy. But I am creepy.
Cute's
but you have
worse.
to mask your creepy.
You could just say you're looking nice, Kay.
You're cute. You look really cute. If I have my voice gone like this when I was talking.
I'm trying to think of the equivalent to say that to a guy.
Why don't you lose that shirt over there? I think
I forget.
you look cute.
Is that it?
I'm pretty bummed about the Tower of Terror thing too.
All
Because
right.
now, because it's to me, I'm hoping it's not like the impetus for
They'll probably make it
all
better.
all of like the nostalgia rides getting taken out, like Matterhorn being gone.
I
like,
swear to God, they get rid of Splash Mountain, I'm not
You
going
get rid
anymore.
of Splash Mountain, Matterhorn, or
Space
Space
Mountain?
Mountain, you're dead.
Splash Mountain, I'm going to protest.
Like Thunder
I'm going to turn in Colin Kaepernick. I'll turn in Colin Kaepernick. You take Splash Mountain, I'm not standing for anything.
I guess their plan is to put, because you know Marvel and Disneyland now, they're making like Star Wars Land and just everything. But it sucks because
Fuck you.
people don't go to Disneyland to see Marvel shit. Like no one likes that stuff.
Well, it's tough. Kids
Families
do, right?
don't like.
Families don't.
It's
I'm not
just
trying to
like
ride
lame.
fucking Captain America.
Yeah, it fucking sucks.
Sounds gay.
I'm really sad about it. I'm just gonna go and.
You know what I mean.
And by gay, you mean.
By gay, I mean happy.
Yeah.
Gay means happy, obviously, 100%.
I'm a bad
Let's not
guy.
be
I gotta take my
homophobic.
kids to fucking Disneyland.
Have they never been to
Just those-
Disneyland?
They have, but those lines kill me.
It's not busy all the time.
Yeah, it's not busy. You got to know when to go.
Yeah.
And you don't have the job where you only can go Saturday and Sundays. For sure, take them on Tuesday or Thursday, though, huh?
Tuesday's the best day to go.
It is?
Yeah.
All right, I'll do that.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, weekend.
All right.
Like,
You have no excuse, sir.
Weekends. The
Maybe we'll
worst
go this,
idea of
I'll
all
go
time.
this Tuesday with you. Bring the kids.
No, are you serious?
I swear to God. Swear to God, I will.
Kay's just looking for a reason to go.
I'll go. I'll surprise the shit out of them.
You don't even have to actually go. Kay will take your kids for you.
That's
I know
true.
my kids just started school though. Doesn't matter.
They
Take
could
'em
miss
out.
one day of school.
You're right. Take them out. Yank them out.
Oh, man, should we all go Tuesday and go with your family and your kids?
Ah!
I go by myself. I'm not
Okay.
going with someone else's kids. Could there be anything worse? Kids you really
Waiting in line.
that you're not parents of?
Yeah, kids are
Oh
dead.
my God.
Dead weight.
Oh my God. And they want to go on like fucking the teacup.
No, until
and
you have your own
Dumbo.
kids and you see how happy they are. It's awesome.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If it's your kids,
Yeah.
it's brilliant.
Yeah.
If it's your kids
Yeah.
and I'm there, it's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys want more fucking funnel cakes?
Yeah.
I'm trying to ride this ride, you little bastard. You know,
Exactly.
it's tough, man.
Exactly.
I'm not bringing my kid. He's probably 3 or 4. You don't want to do it too young.
4 or 5, probably, right? I think 3 might be young. I took my son when he was
He's
3.
thick.
He was like,
He's thick. My kid's
Oh,
thick and
okay.
big. He's gonna like it. He's already crawling like a motherfucker.
So you had to be this tall to be in the ride, young man.
How weird is that? He's just turned 6 months. He can crawl like a fucking army soldier. Is that not weird?
Crawling through the trenches.
For TV controllers, he's obsessed with TV controllers. He will army crawl the fuck
They
to the
love
controller.
buttons at that age.
It's weird, man.
Buttons
You got a
and
drop
colors.
in knowledge.
I have a great drop of knowledge. You know what I realized
Don't say
is
great.
that most people don't know what drugs are. Do you know what drugs are? Do you know what medicine is? Do you know? Do you know what it is? Can
What do you mean?
define it? Like when you take medicine, What is medicine?
Well, isn't it supposed to help you cure some deficiency that you have or sickness?
Yes, but what does that mean? It's interesting. Do you guys know how you would define what a drug is?
Well, are you talking about cocaine or are you talking about aspirin?
Well, actually, cocaine or aspirin they're both drugs. So yes, I mean, So a drug is a molecule that has a favorable or unfavorable result in the body. And what it typically does, so what
That's the definition of a drug?
Yes.
Well, you can't say anything then is a drug.
Kind of.
With that definition.
You could, but that's what a drug is.
That's tough, B.
No, it's not tough. That's not. That's what a drug is. The
So
drug
it's-
is, so I'll explain. So a drug is essentially, you've got to figure out when, and cyclooxygenate. Cyclooxygenate is an enzyme that is released in the body that sends molecules, that essentially sends molecules that create inflammation in the body. So when you're in pain or you have a wound, it inflames. Cyclooxygenate is that enzyme. What aspirin or ibuprofen does is aspirin and ibuprofen is a molecule that has, which is essentially atoms that are connected by different chemicals and stuff. So a molecule is something that blocks that enzyme. And when the molecule blocks, whether it's ibuprofen, aspirin, that molecule blocks that enzyme, it stops inflammation. And that's kind of how it works. But before you can invent a molecule that's going to have an effect, you need to understand what the mechanism of that is. So if there's a disease, whether it's cancer, whatever it might be, whether it's an infection, you've got to understand how and why that happens. And then the enzyme. So here's how it works. It's kind of crazy. So with this molecule, you have laboratory scientists. It's the most boring job in the world, who sit around and come up with different molecules that have an effect on certain enzymes that they start with in a petri dish. So when you're trying to come up with drugs, there's a really boring part of it with a lot of data. Dude, you're sitting there and they're adding and taking away from molecules. They're manipulating molecules through something called synthesis, which is putting things together, taking things apart. So as you're trying to develop a drug for, say, something like whatever it might be, some disease, you got to sit there and see, first of all, you got to figure out how the disease works, what happens. Then you take that enzyme, you put it in a petri dish, this is an example, and you introduce these different molecules. If the molecules seem to have an effect, the positive effect you're looking for on that enzyme in that petri dish, then you move to animals. And then
usually rats and mice.
But then you go to dogs.
Occasionally we got that chimpanzee.
Yeah, chimpanzees.
Do they still work on chimps or no?
Yes, for AIDS they did. A lot of AIDS drugs.
But not anymore, right?
Because,
I think it's against the law now, right? With chimps or no?
It probably is because.
Well, yeah, you're heading into it. Go for it.
No, because chimps were so similar to human beings. And that's where they were working on the simian virus, because the HIV virus, because it wasn't working on dogs and stuff. There are a lot of
Didn't
reasons.
they think HIV came because some guy fucked a chimp?
No, there are a lot of reasons.
But there was, remember, there was that
Radiolab.
Some gay dude in the jungle was like, let me get that ass.
Radiolab did an amazing series called Patient
now you
Zero.
got AIDS.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that.
No, I'm saying, remember that theory though?
It was probably eating or mixing blood when he cut himself when he killed the monkey. But it goes back to the 20s, actually, in Zaire, I think. The Radiolab did a really good thing called Patient Zero about the first patient who had
Has nothing to do with having sex with monkeys.
Not at all. So let's start. So then you go from mice and you see how that molecule works in a living creature, okay? And then you go to dogs. But here's the thing. Before you get to people, okay, you've got to then figure out 1,000 different variations. How much of that after an hour of that molecule is left in the bloodstream? If it dissipates really quickly, you've got to increase the dosage. When it breaks down into different parts, is it toxic? Is it toxic in larger doses? And you got to figure these things out. And unfortunately, they've got to keep giving these mice and finally these dogs or whatever, as more and more of this molecule until they see toxic
My boy Dom
results.
would be pissed.
Until they see they might die or they get very toxic. Finally, if it has favorable results in an animal, you then move to human trials.
God damn, how bad do you need money if you're one of those trial people?
Well, by the way, here's where I'm going with this. So now you're in with human trials, and you've got to do all kinds of stuff. Does it affect the electricity in the heart? How does it mingle with other drugs? How long is it in the blood system? Do you have to swallow horse pills? That's not going to work. Does it last an hour? Would you have to take 24 pills? That's not going to work.
Well, isn't it like, because when you see those medications, like some of the test people had diarrhea, nausea. So, diarrhea, nausea, low sperm count,
do you one better.
Erection problems, asshole was bleeding out of their nose, eyes started bleeding.
TGN 1214, an immunotherapy drug. Something went wrong in this phase, in the human phase, and these guys ended up in the hospital with their fingers and toes rotting off. So there are some horrific examples. But
so do they give it to them like, all right, it's what people experience? Like, I shit my pants before I even got out the door. I started crying blood.
There are people that do this full time.
And how much do they get paid? Do we know?
They get between $200 and $400 a day. Now,
rack up some nice dollars.
100%. Now, 100%. Now, here's the thing.
But can you do it 5 times a week?
Well, the money is backloaded. So you get it as long as you complete the trial. Now, a lot of people think these are done in universities and they're done in clean white labs. That's true, but it is also privately outsourced. So sometimes it costs you maybe $30,000 to test it on one patient. But in Albania, it might cost you $3,000.
Fuck, man.
Right? It used to be done on prisoners. Eli Lilly in 1996 got in trouble.
Dude, that makes sense to do on prisoners. Like someone on death row,
sure.
For sure, inject them to see what happens.
But in Eli Lilly got in trouble in 1996 for recruiting homeless alcoholics. And they were getting, they got in some trouble. But at the end of the day, only 20% of all drugs that are tested reach even the what's called phase 1 in humans.
No shit.
20%. Then you go, if it has really good results, and they'll give you bigger doses. Usually you go a tenth of the dose you gave to the animals to see what happens. Then you move on to patients, and then finally you move on to a larger group of patients. And so the testing process costs hundreds of millions, sometimes billions of dollars to get a drug on the market because, these drug companies have a lot riding on this, but they put so much money into it.
They get sued too.
Sure.
Think about it. Think how many companies got sued from a lot of stuff.
It's very hard. That's why it's so expensive to create your own drug company, because getting it passed and then finally the FDA looks at all that evidence and says, this is cool. Oof. It's a tough one.
I was reading an instant article, and I think it's called Psychology Times, something like that. But they were talking about how, and Rogan and I were talking about this. I think we all were that with virtual reality. Mm-hmm. And they were saying this study came out where kids who play like Call of Duty and all those first-person shooters, they're, I think, 10 times more likely to have depression, anger issues, anxiety. Mm-hmm. Like there's all these stats coming out. Like these games are trouble, man. Yep. And so that Aurora movie theater shooter, they asked him like, how did he know what to do? He said video games. Yep. So there's, I'm not saying that all people are like that. I grew up playing fucking violent ass games. Mm-hmm. I seem all right.
It does have an effect.
But so this thing was on virtual reality, and so virtual reality is going to start getting so good. They're worried about this is even the next level. Mm-hmm. And so as much as it's going to be able to help like our troops and these special units and people with certain issues, well, you got to look at the con too. It's also going to help people
get better at killing.
But this is the number one thing that they're worried about. It desensitizes people to
stress
things.
Inoculation.
Because, like when if you watch Fast and Furious 2 or 3 and you see a car accident like flip over, and you see movies like that and you see people getting shot, you you've seen it before.
So that's why people say it looks like a movie.
So when you see it happen in real life, think if there's no movies, no media, you'd be like, God damn, did you see that dude fucking flip the car? But the other day I was driving down Venice and a BMW came out, got hit and flipped over. I didn't skip a beat. Yep. Bitch, I've seen Vin Diesel do that 30 times. I just kept on keeping on. You know what I'm saying?
Porn's doing that too.
So they were saying with virtual reality, it's going to make it so bad because people are desensitized and you're going to have a society that's not as compassionate is what they're worried about, because our kids would grow up with virtual reality. We didn't have virtual reality. I had Mortal Kombat and 2D games, shit like that. But with kids being able to play Mortal Kombat in 3D or this war game, you're in Japan, right? It mimics World War. So they're in Japan, and their example is this guy walks up, blows up a tank, and there's a Japanese soldier outside the tank, and you can walk up and shoot him in the face. Jesus. And they're saying, well, now with virtual reality, you're going to physically be able to walk up, get your gun out, in virtual reality, shoot them in the face and see facial expressions, blood. It's nuts, man. So
Yeah.
they're worried it's gonna there'd be no
Desensitize.
compassion for human life, and we're gonna see the murder rate and violent crimes and shootings go up.
Or you'll see kids who have those tendencies to begin with just get deeper into their games. So there's another study that said that because people have access to movies where they see people getting killed, like that maniacs who would usually do it, get in their van and go kill somebody. This was one study. It seems that kind of crime is not on the rise because they get their kicks off of watching the movies, and they can actually kind of live vicariously through
That's
it. So
interesting.
That would be the
That's a tough
hopeful.
sell.
That would be the hopeful thing. But I do think that as you
It's a violent culture, violent
yeah.
sells. Look
And
at the movies.
It's also where we're headed, and it's also we've got to learn
Scary.
how to work within that, because you're not going to stop technology. You're not
Oh
going to
no,
stop.
there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, and you're not going to stop people's thirst for that virtual reality.
No,
That,
it's huge.
And there's a flip side to that. You're going to be able to play tennis and do all kinds of
I
things.
said pros and
probably
cons. Yeah, I'm just talking about
100%.
because kids already with the 2D games are having these anger, anxiety. They're lashing out in school.
Yeah.
And they said in this study that they did with I think 600, 800 kids, they all had one similar trait where they all played this certain video games.
With as technology goes, there's always that golden side too. Like with drugs and stuff. With gene doping, where they're going to be able to manipulate the genes, you're not going to have to worry so much about the toxic side effects of whatever drug it might be. So much of medicine is about pinpointing, not only the drug for your system specifically, but also kind of mapping your genome, mapping your genetic structure, and manipulating those genes. So the forefront of medicine is fucking amazing, man. It's amazing. And people talk about, this book I read is called Bad Pharma by Ben Goldacre, good book.
Is it just about drugs?
It's about, he has two books, one Bad Science, one Bad Pharma, one about the alternative medical industry and what a sham it is, but also some of it is legit, and how yes, big pharmaceutical companies do certain things that are unethical, but they also save a lot of fucking lives, and it's a very balanced look at also the good they do. So it's a flip side to it. You hear a lot about that stuff.
A lot of good shit, man. Obviously the fan questions with Scott Coker, they're all for him. So listen up, kids. September 22nd, it's a Thursday night. We are live in San Jose Improv. I think there's 30 tickets left. Either way, you better get your tickets right now or after you finish listening to this podcast. And then in October, we are in Oxnard, California, and Brea, California.
Can't wait for that.
And then in November, we take our ass down to Florida. We go in Florida.
Ooh,
We
yes,
go in
sir.
Sizzler, son.
West Palm Beach. And September 16, 17, New York City, Gotham Comedy Club. I mean, what else do I have to say? I'm bringing my heat, and come see me do stand-up, because rumor has it is I'm very fucking funny.
That is the rumor.
And then also tomorrow, we're going to be dropping the Just Say No episode of The Fighter and the Kid 3D on the Fighter and the Kid YouTube channel for free. So go to check out the Fighter and the Kid YouTube channel if you haven't already. Episode's going to be on there, full thing for free from the 3D series. It's awesome. It's hilarious. Check it out.
It might be our best episode.
I think
It's
so.
a banger.
I also got a little surprise coming to the YouTube channel too. I'll wait till we officially upload it,
excited
but
about
it's going to be a game changer.
I'm excited.
All right, San Jose, you're up. September 22nd. This is the Fire and the Kid. We're out.